Chapter 757. In one day, the news that Han Fei was a legendary creature spread throughout the entire 10,000 Demon Valley. Those who heard it were all shocked and amazed. This also led to many people wanting to see what the awakened Azure Sea Blue Demon looked like. As a result, Yuji's weapon shop was overcrowded for a while. At this moment, Yuji's weapon shop put up a purchase limit, and only 50 high-quality demonic weapons were sold in a single day. However, Han Fei didn't need to refine weapons himself. He didn't want to refine weapons for sea demons. At this moment, he was waiting for someone to come, a real big shot to come. Han Fei was resting with his eyes closed, turning a blind eye to those perceptions and gazes. He was playing with the fish. In Forge the Universe, Little White wandered around leisurely. From time to time, it jumped back and forth among the leaves of the big red trunk, looking very happy. As for Little Black, at this moment, a burly figure silently appeared in a shop called Fish's Howl Weapons Shop. Han Fei lowered his head, looked at his hands, and shook his head slightly. Puppets are puppets after all. It's still impossible for them to be like humans. But fortunately, these arrays are simple. This person was Overlord. Beside the Overlord was an invisible black fish. As Overlord stepped his feet, 1 array, 2 arrays, 3 arrays, 3 arrays, 3 different kinds of seals. After doing all this, Overlord took a step and walked into the material room of this Yushao weapon shop. The moment Han Fei stepped into the seal, a buzzing sound rang and rippled out. However, at the same time, 2 of the 3 seals that Han Fei had set up were activated. Whether it was the sound or the vibration, they all disappeared at that moment. As soon as he entered, Han Fei saw 2 large piles of messy materials. A large tank of spiritual spring occupied 1/5 of the area of the room. It's also a high-grade spirit weapon shop, but why does this shop only have 30,000 caddies of spirit spring? Overlord was expressionless, but the blue flames in his eyes were flickering and jumping, looking extremely eager. Swish, swish, swish. In just a moment, the material room had become clean as if it had been licked. The Overlord looked at Xiaohei, only to see Xiaohei growing bigger and bigger. A huge mouth appeared and swallowed the Overlord whole. Let's go to the next shop. Less than half an hour after the battle with Yu Yun, several powerful perceptions swept over. When the pressure descended, the half-mermaids who had been surrounding Yuji's weapon shop fled in panic. Yu Fu was too scared to move. He had nowhere to run even if he wanted to. He could only respectfully stand in the shop and wait for the arrival of the important person. 10 seconds later, a half-mermaid expert in a jade battle suit entered the shop. This person was full of strong murderous aura, and the pressure was bursting out. Yu Fu was so scared that his body was trembling. Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes and looked at this person. Just as he expected. In fact, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He wasn't sure if his method would work. However, it shouldn't be a problem if he gave it a try. He thought that the person who came would be stronger than this one. But now it seemed that he wasn't. The pressure this person gave him was actually not strong. Although he was a hidden fisher, he was weaker than Xiao Zhan. The person stared at Han Fei for a long time, but Han Fei didn't dodge his eyes, let alone panic. The person grinned and said, "No wonder you are a legendary creature. Your determination and arrogance are beyond ordinary people's reach." This person shouted, "I am Yu Xian, Deputy Commander of the Blue Sea Demon Army of the Blood Sea Valley. You are an Azure Sea Blue Demon, born to be in my Blue Sea Demon Army. Follow me. You can choose any cultivation method or combat skill you want. As long as you go with me, you can directly command a regiment of 100 people. In less than a year, I will give you a regiment of 1,000 people. In the future, if you stand out, the position of Deputy Commander of the Blue Sea Demon Army will be yours." Han Fei blinked his eyes a few times, wondering if he had exposed too much. Legendary-type creatures were so popular? Han Fei didn't know what the Blue Sea Demon Army was. But he could guess it. Besides, this person was from the Blood Sea Valley, so he should be the deputy commander of the ordinary inferior manfish. According to Yu Fu, there must be more people in the Blood Sea Valley than in the 10,000 Demon Valley. It could be imagined how many ordinary sea demons Yu Xian had commanded. However, Han Fei didn't intend to leave the 10,000 Demon Valley. He complained in his heart, I just want to sneak into the 10,000 Demon Valley and get as many benefits as I can. If I go to the Blood Sea Valley, I'll stay with a group of stupid ordinary sea demons every day. Am I crazy? Han Fei was about to refuse, when he suddenly heard someone sneer outside the cave. Yu Xian, you are indeed very fast, but is your blue sea demon army strong enough? As he spoke, another strong man in a bright red battle suit came in. Although this person was laughing, the pressure he faintly exuded made Han Fei frown slightly. This person was probably no weaker than Xiao Zhan. This person entered the weapon shop and sat down on the refining divine platform casually. He stretched out his hand, and a crab leg appeared. He bit it off with a crack and began to chew it. Yu Xian frowned. Yuchen, why is your red blood demon army robbing an azure sea blue demon heavenly talent? Yuchen grinned. Those red demon brats always think that they're strong. If a powerful azure sea blue demon suppresses them, their ferocity will be aroused. Then he looked at Han Fei. I am Yuchen, the deputy commander of the red blood demon army in the Blood Sea Valley. You know, they are all red demons. It is very difficult to suppress them. It depends on your ability. You are a heavenly talent and have your own pride. This is a great challenge. I wonder if you are interested? Han Fei shook his head slightly. No. Yu Xian was delighted. What about me? Han Fei continued to shake his head. No. Their momentum erupted almost at the same time, and they both glared at Han Fei. Yuchen said coldly, you said you are a legend, so you attracted our attention. But just because you are a legend doesn't mean you are a real genius. As an azure sea blue demon, where else can you go except for the Blood Sea Valley? Yu Fu was so scared by the sudden pressure of the two that he sat on the ground. Han Fei slowly got up and said with a firm look, I pursue the great Tao. Yu Xian and Yuchen looked at each other, and Yuchen suddenly smiled. Sure enough, creatures of different levels have different perceptions. In the entire 10,000 Demon Valley, there are no more than 100 people who have the confidence to say that they pursue the great Tao. You very good. Suddenly, Yu Xian and Yuchen looked at the entrance of the cave at the same time and then made way for someone. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly and thought to himself, the person I've been waiting for is here. The person who came this time was not a half-mermaid, but a red demon. However, this red demon was very different from ordinary red demons. He was abnormally tall, and his legs had greatly evolved. He had no tail behind him, and he looked like a deformed human being. However, his face was no longer like a fish. Except for his particularly big eyes, he looked more like a human than any red demon Han Fei had ever seen. Yu Xian and Yuchen said respectfully at the same time, Lord Huan. Han Fei's face changed slightly. Is this Qishue Huan, who ranks 7th among the so-called 8 wings of Blue Feather? And the only red demon in the 10,000 Demon Valley who has become one of the 8 wings of Blue Feather? Qishue Huan glanced at the two of them. You go back. Yu Xian and Yuchen exchanged a look and responded, Yes, sir. No information appeared in Han Fei's eyes, but this person gave him a very bad feeling, very cold and fierce. Unlike Yu Xian and Yuchen, they were able to release their auras. But this Qishue Huan had his own pressure. He stared at Han Fei, and Han Fei also stared at him. At this time, Yu Fu was already lying on the ground, not even daring to raise his head. Qishue Huan said, Actually, you should go to the Blood Sea Valley. The Great Tao is invisible. Only after going through many hardships will you be more qualified to seek the Great Tao. Han Fei didn't speak, and Qishue Huan continued, But don't worry. You have just transformed and don't have any combat skills. By the way, what's your inherited secret skill? Han Fei was silent for a moment, and after thinking it over, he said, Overlord Body. Qishue Huan's expression changed slightly. What kind of Overlord Body? Try it. Han Fei pondered for a while and secretly activated the majestic mystic spell. Suddenly, his momentum surged and his strength increased exponentially. His strength directly climbed to the level of a peak-level hanging fisher. Qishue Huan grinned, revealing his fangs. I see. It seems to be stronger than the Sea King's secret method. Yes, you do have the right to be proud. Han Fei thought to himself, the Sea King's secret method can only increase one's luck by more than 2 times, not 3 times. I'm 5 times. How can it be the same? Suddenly, Qishue Huan suddenly asked, did you kill Yu and the others? Han Fei was not stunned. He had already considered this question. He shook his head slightly. No, there was a second guardian creature. Han Fei was not worried. Little Gold's lightning blade was really strong, and Han Fei didn't clean up the traces left behind. It was because of the power of lightning that Han Fei was not afraid of being investigated. Qishue Huan smiled. I heard from Yu Ji that you saved her? Han Fei shook his head. Not really. That creature didn't attack us. Qishue Huan grunted. Even if you are a legendary creature, I won't accept you as my disciple. Legend. Do you really want to enter the 10,000 Demon Tower? Han Fei frowned slightly. It was different from what he thought. He thought this person would want to take him away, but it didn't seem to be the case. Han Fei thought for a long time. Qishue Huan's eyes were shining. Han Fei said expressionlessly, leave the 10,000 Demon Valley and find a way. Qishue Huan nodded with satisfaction. That's the nature of a legendary creature. If you want to stay in the 10,000 Demon Valley, I will definitely suspect that you have ulterior motives. It seems that you have made a plan. While Qishue Huan was chatting with Han Fei, suddenly, a roar of anger spread across dozens of kilometers. Bastard, there's a thief, first. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 758. Han Fei chuckled in his heart. In fact, Han Fei had already made up his mind when he asked Yu Fu to take him out. His purpose was to kill 5 birds with 1 stone. Buy spiritual fruits, observe the terrain, wait for people to provoke him, steal things, and wait for people to rope him in. Han Fei admired himself a little. He wanted to squeeze out the benefits he could get from sneaking into the 10,000 Demon Valley as soon as possible. However, Han Fei didn't expect that his plan would be exposed so soon. He had only robbed 2 refining shops and harvested a total of 59,000 caddies of spiritual spring, which was less than 60,000 caddies, which was less than 60 million spiritual energy. However, he got a lot of refining materials. Those were the spiritual energy reserves of a sea monster refining shop, which were easily stolen by him. It was impossible to say that he didn't make money, but these materials were useless to Han Fei. In the future, it wouldn't be easy to sell such a large number of materials. Therefore, he could only sell them slowly. However, the noise was so loud that even Qishue Huan was alarmed. At the moment when Qishue Huan looked out, Little Black, who was more than 30 kilometers away, stopped swimming and leaned against the rock wall outside a spiritual fruit shop. Immediately afterward, there was another roar. Someone roared, not good, someone robbed my refining shop. All the materials and spiritual spring are gone. The half-mermaid was so angry that he vomited a mouthful of blood. Han Fei was speechless. This is a bit hard to deal with. He thought that when he attracted a lot of people's attention, he could rob at least 5 or 6 shops with Little Black and Overlord. But who would have thought that he would be able to rob at least 5 or 6 shops with Little Black and Overlord? Han Fei knew that he wouldn't be able to rob the 3rd shop. At this moment, many refining shops should have been alerted, and he might not be able to rob them in a short time. However, Han Fei didn't panic. This time the robbery was fruitful. If 60 million points of spiritual energy were not enough, he would be too greedy. Qishue Huan frowned slightly and said to the entrance of the cave, "Go check it out." Someone took the order and left. Qishue Huan looked back at Han Fei. This kind of thing is very rare in the 10,000 Demon Valley. Don't worry about it. Let's continue. Qishue Huan said, "You will leave eventually. If that's the case, how are you going to repay me for nurturing you and teaching you all sorts of top-notch battle skills and secret arts?" Pondering for a moment, Han Fei asked, "How do you want me to pay you back?" Qishue Huan's eyes flickered. "Simple, help me do 3 things. When you're done, you can leave anytime." Han Fei asked, How long? Qishue Huan grinned. Lifespan shouldn't be a problem for you. If it's fast, it'll take 3 to 5 years. If it's slow, it'll take 7 to 8 years. Once you're done with these 3 things, you can leave at any time. Han Fei sneered in his heart. Who's going to follow you for 3 to 5 years? I'll be lucky if I can stay here for 3 to 5 months. However, on the surface, Han Fei asked indifferently, "What is it?" Qishue Huan smiled faintly and said, "There's no hurry. Although you're a legendary creature, you're still weak. Moreover, be it cultivation technique or battle skill, they were both lacking. You still need more training. With your current strength, there are 2 places that are most suitable for you to train your combat skills." Han Fei wondered, "Where?" Qishue Huan said, "The Sea Demon Coliseum is the first battlefront between the sea demons and humans. I prefer the latter. If you survive on the human battlefield, your strength will definitely be greatly improved." Han Fei thought to himself, "Do you think I'm stupid? Go to the Scattered Stars Island now? It wasn't easy for me to get out. At that time, I won't have a chance to deduce void fishing. Anyway, I can't go there." Han Fei said, "Let's go to the Sea Demon Coliseum first." Qishue Huan waved his hand and more than a dozen jade slips appeared. "It's up to you. You can stay in the 10,000 Demon Valley for a while. You've just transformed, so your speed of improvement is extremely fast. But remember, you can't exceed level 50. Han Fei was surprised. But Qishue Huan said, "First of all, if there are no accidents, we need someone whose realm is within this range. When the time is right, you'll know." Han Fei guessed that he needed to explore a secret realm by himself. This secret realm required him to be a hanging fisher. However, Han Fei was a little troubled. Would he rob this secret realm with the human beings? Then it would be troublesome. Since he was a legendary creature, it must not be an ordinary secret realm. However, of course, he wanted to go in. After all, secret realms represented treasures. "Forget it, let's take it one step at a time." Qishue Huan left. Before leaving, he said to Han Fei, "In the future, no other big shots will come to trouble you. You can solve the trivial problems yourself. First of all, I don't know when exactly it will be, but you need to hurry up and practice your combat skills." After Qishue Huan left, Han Fei sat alone for a long time. Things really changed. Han Fei didn't intend to stay in the 10,000 Demon Valley for long. After all, this was not the territory of humans. It was uncomfortable to stay here for a long time. If it weren't for Qishue Huan's hint that the first thing to do was to explore the secret realm, Han Fei might not have talked to him at all. "Why the fuck would I do 3 things for you? If I want to leave, you might not be able to catch me." Yu Fu looked at Han Fei differently at this moment. This lord seemed to be on the same level as Yu Ji in just a moment. Sure enough, heavenly talents will shine wherever they are. Han Fei secretly smiled. Since he was not in a hurry to leave, he was not in a hurry to let Little Black take Overlord to rob. He might really be able to try the Sea Demon combat skills. With the Heavens extended art, whether it was the human society or the Sea Demon world, he seemed to be able to conquer both sides in the future. Thinking of this, Han Fei couldn't help but glance at the combat skills and techniques left by Qishue Huan. As a result, Han Fei found that there was a heaven-level, low-quality cultivation method and 4 heaven-level, low-quality combat skills among them. Han Fei immediately took a breath. Qishue Huan is really bold. He's really not afraid that I'll run away. That cultivation method was naturally ignored by Han Fei. If he wanted to cultivate, he would cultivate the true spirit demonic scripture. Although they were both heaven-level, low-quality, these 2 concepts were completely different. The reason why the true spirit demonic scripture was heaven-level, low-quality was entirely because the first Sea King incarnated the way of heaven and imparted the scripture to all living beings in the sea. To deduce this cultivation method, it would cost 100 million yuan. How could an ordinary heaven-level, low-quality cultivation method compare to it? As for other basic combat skills, Han Fei almost ignored those that were not heaven-level. 4 heaven-level, low-quality combat skills were enough for him to cultivate. Besides, Qishue Huan was quite thoughtful. These combat skills could be said to be both offensive and defensive. They were Sea King's secret method. Han Fei already had this. But Han Fei might not be able to show his powerful inherited combat skills all the time. The point was that the so-called inherited overlord body was just a bluff. If it was seen through, it would be over. Flying Flower Demon Flash, a combat footwork for sea monsters. After reading it, Han Fei found that this footwork could allow his body to shuttle freely within 20 meters and break the void. It was a close combat flashing combat skill. Han Fei suspected that if this Flying Flower Demon Flash continued to be deduced, it might be very terrifying. If it could be compared to Xia Xiaochan's flash, it would be even more terrifying. Besides, if he could use it after becoming a human, that would be invincible. One line of light, this was the power of the harpoon that Yuji and the others used when they fought. It was so powerful that even he had to be careful when dealing with it. Combined with the Sea God's secret method, it was even as powerful as Han Fei's previous draw technique. 17 Dragon Fists, a sea monster fist technique with a total of 17 moves, each stronger than the last. It was said that the strongest one could punch 17 times in an instant, which could crack mountains and break rocks and break ultra-quality demonic weapons with bare hands. Han Fei thought about it. This 17 Dragon Fists was not bad. After coming to the 10,000 Demon Valley, he definitely couldn't use the sacrificing punch. As for the art of invincibility, he wouldn't use it if he could. At this time, it was best to use a fist technique as a substitute. Han Fei soon made up his mind. He would use 3 days to practice these combat skills. 3 days later, he would go to the Sea Monster Coliseum and fight. Yu Fu. Yes, I'm here. Yu Fu was completely terrified at this moment. Han Fei's rise was already unstoppable. Besides, Yu Fu also heard what Han Fei said just now. This man was looking for the Great Way. In terms of awareness, he was even higher than Yuji. He couldn't afford to offend such a person. Han Fei glanced at him. I want to practice my cultivation methods and combat skills. Is there a place? Yu Fu quickly said, yes, there is a cultivation canyon on the west side, and all the half-mermaids and half-mermaids cultivate in that canyon. Cultivation canyon? Yu Fu explained, there is a demonic heritage under the 10,000 Demon Tower, so we can cultivate there. If you can go to the 10,000 Demon Tower, you don't have to go to the cultivation canyon. But since you haven't gone to the 10,000 Demon Tower, the cultivation canyon is the most suitable place for you to cultivate. Back then, Miss Yuji and the others also walked out of the cultivation canyon step by step. Han Fei got up and walked to the door, ignoring the commotion outside. Little Black plunged into his body and threw the stolen things into Forge the Universe together with the Overlord. Han Fei's face was expressionless. In that case, I'll go to the cultivation canyon. If Yuji comes back, tell her to come to me. Yes, my lord. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 759. It had been 3 months since he ran away from the Scattered Stars Island. The life tablet was probably broken too. He was afraid that Luo Xiaobai and the others would find it. However, because he was forced to leave the island, it would be difficult for Luo Xiaobai and the others to come out again. Old Jiang couldn't find him, so he wouldn't look for him randomly. However, he didn't know if anyone had reminded Tangu. Would he run out? Han Fei couldn't care less at this moment. After all, he was already in the Myriad Demon Valley. In fact, he was waiting for an expert to appear and take him away. Then, he demanded an exorbitant amount of resources. But since seeing Qishue Huan, he found that things were not so simple. Only Qishue Huan came, and it seemed that he was not going to let him enter the 10,000 Demon Tower, which gave him no chance to ask for more. Forget it. Let's go take a look at that cultivation canyon first. Yu Fu led Han Fei all the way west, which was actually the other side of the 10,000 Demon Valley. Yu Fu said respectfully, Master, there are daily cultivation waters, ordinary demon realms, and ancient 72-floor demon realms in the cultivation canyon. At this time, Master has not yet practiced a suitable sea demon cultivation method. His combat skills are not yet proficient, so don't force your way into the ancient 72-floor demon realm. What kind of place is the ancient 72-floor demon realm? Yu Fu explained. It is said that the establishment of the 10,000 Demon Valley is due to the existence of the demonic heritage. In the past, when the sea monsters discovered the demon vein, they also discovered the demon realm. It was said that this was a small demon realm. Legend has it that in the true Sea Demon King City, there is a truly peerless demon realm. Han Fei was surprised. Sea Demon King City? Yu Fu sighed. The royal city has always been a legend. Some ordinary sea demons had never been to the 10,000 Demon Valley before, so they thought this was the royal city. Little did they know that no one had ever been to the real royal city, nor had they seen anyone from royal city come here. However, the myriad Demon Valley was already a holy land. Especially the ancient 72-floor demon realm. It was said that since the 10,000 Demon Valley had existed for countless years, no one had been able to reach the top. That place is where the great opportunity lies. Han Fei was shocked. What? It's been so long and no one has gone in? Are there so few heavenly talents among the sea demons? Yu Fu shook his head. How can it be less? There were countless prodigies, and it was recorded on the demon stele that 68 of them had entered level 71. Below the 71st floor, each floor was filled with 100 people. However, not a single person was able to enter the 72nd floor. Han Fei was surprised. What is the demon stele? Yu Fu said respectfully, the demon stele is a rock wall, which records the top 100 heavenly talents on each floor in the history of the 72-floor demon realm. This ranking was not based on the number of levels passed in the demon realm, but the top 100 experts in each level. Even the 100th place on the first level can be considered a genius. Han Fei was a little shocked. It seemed that this 10,000 Demon Valley was also extraordinary. After such a long time, the ancient 72-floor demon realm was still left behind. Han Fei asked, "Is Yuji on the list?" Yu Fu said proudly, Yes. Miss Yuji had passed the 61st floor of the demon realm and was ranked 81st. Only then will he be qualified to be taken in as a disciple by Lord Northstar. Han Fei was speechless. She's already 81st. Why is she so proud? Yu Fu was even more speechless. My lord, the demon stele records the strongest heavenly talents in history. Although it only records the sea demons below level 50, it has been accumulated over countless years. Han Fei didn't deny it. Time didn't mean anything. However, Han Fei felt that he should also be a lot weaker. After all, since meeting Chen Huangdian, Han Fei would no longer consider himself a peerless heavenly talent. In terms of talent, Chen Huangdian's talent surpassed all the people he had ever seen. He was the most talented one. An hour later, Han Fei finally came to the so-called Cultivation Canyon. It was more like a training ground than a long, abyss-like strait. As far as the eye could see, it stretched for dozens of kilometers. After listening to Yu Fu's introduction, Han Fei learned that this was actually an ordinary training ground that stretched for more than 120 kilometers. As far as Han Fei could see, there were sea demons floating in the water, half-mermaids fighting fiercely, and half-mermaids practicing combat skills alone in the water. Such a scene stretched as far as the eye could see. Yu Fu took Han Fei here, and Yu Fu said respectfully, "My lord, this is an ordinary training ground. The deeper you go, the more advanced the training ground will be. But my lord, don't rush in directly. If you want to enter the ancient 72-floor demon realm, you have to fight all the way." Han Fei glanced at this ordinary training ground full of half-mermaids and frowned. There are so many people. How can I cultivate here? Han Fei immediately said, "Go ahead. I'll go alone." "Yes, my lord." Han Fei's arrival was destined to attract too many people. Some people knew about Han Fei's previous deeds, but most people didn't. Because from the battle with Yu Yun to the arrival of Qixue Huan and his arrival in this cultivation canyon, it had been less than 8 hours. The news that Han Fei was a legendary awakened sea demon hadn't spread yet. So, as soon as Han Fei arrived here, someone immediately scolded, "Where did this inferior sea demon come from? Get out of here." A half-mermaid with slightly better eyesight saw Han Fei and sneered. An azure sea blue demon? Amazing. Why didn't you go to the Blood Sea Valley? Why did you come to the Cultivation Canyon? Is this a place you can come to? Han Fei said indifferently, Get out of the way. A half-mermaid sneered. Get out of the way? Who do you think you are? Even an azure sea blue demon is not qualified to come to the Cultivation Canyon to cultivate. Go quickly, or I'll beat you until you leave. Yu Fu hadn't gone far. Seeing this scene, he thought to himself, what a fool. Don't you think? Since Master Yu Fei can come here as an azure sea blue demon, how can he not have some confidence? Han Fei said leisurely, Do you want to fight? Then come on. Swish. Han Fei stabbed out with his harpoon. The speed was so fast and the power was so fierce that the seawater exploded, and the person closest to Han Fei was directly poked hundreds of meters away by the harpoon. There were no fancy combat skills or magical footwork. It was just a simple harpoon, which was as simple as a slash, but no one could block it. What a strong power! No wonder you dare to come to the Cultivation Canyon. Let me fight you. Seeing that Yu Fu hadn't gone far, Han Fei immediately looked back and asked, Can we fight to the death here? Yu Fu opened his mouth, but before he could answer, someone sneered. This azure sea blue demon wants to fight to the death? Of course, you can fight to the death here. As long as you agree, you can fight to the death. Han Fei looked back and nodded. Very good, if you want to challenge me, I'll fight to the death. Who wants to fight to the death? Han Fei's voice was extremely cold. Hearing his words, many people immediately flinched. They were all here to cultivate. Who wanted to fight to the death here? However, among 100 people, there were always one or two naive people who were always extremely confident and thought they could win. Immediately, someone stood up, bared his sharp teeth, and looked at Han Fei coldly. I'll fight. On the path of cultivation, how can you be successful if you're afraid of death? Today, I'll let you know that it's not so easy to enter the Cultivation Canyon. This person's whole body was ignited with white flames, and he activated the Sea King's secret method. A big green fish covered his whole body, and his head was green. Seeing this scene, Han Fei couldn't help but sneer. Why isn't his head green? However, Han Fei clearly felt that this person's realm didn't seem to be higher than his. What's the point of using the Sea King's secret method? Immediately, Han Fei didn't even need to use any combat skills. He just pointed his harpoon again. The phantom of hundreds of feet pierced through the seawater, letting out a sharp howl. It was a simple harpoon, but it was extremely domineering. The half-mermaid roared and pointed his harpoon exactly as Han Fei did. However, the tip of his harpoon was shining brilliantly and emitting a dense demonic aura. Bam! The harpoon in the opponent's hand broke. Han Fei had already passed by him and stood behind him. The harpoon pierced through his body. Han Fei grabbed the blood-stained harpoon and moved forward step by step as if he had done a trivial thing. With one blow, a half-mermaid was killed. Seeing this scene, countless surrounding half-mermaids were horrified. Who on earth is this azure sea blue demon? Someone was shocked. Is this azure sea blue demon so powerful? Someone backed down. Not everyone could afford a life-and-death battle. In the distance, Yu Fu left quietly after seeing this scene. He was wondering if Master Yu Fei would become the next person to step on the demon steel. Yu Fu couldn't help but think so. This was the awakening of a legendary creature. In terms of level, it was probably higher than that of an ordinary half-mermaid heavenly talent. If he could show his talent, he wouldn't necessarily be worse than Yu Ji. Han Fei walked very slowly. However, within thousands of meters, no half-mermaid dared to come up to fight him. Fighting with such a lunatic was fatal. When Han Fei walked more than 8,000 meters, a second person finally jumped out. However, with one blow, half of the person's body was blasted through. Han Fei was still moving forward, not even stopping. 30 kilometers later, someone attacked again. This person was holding an ultra-quality demonic weapon with a sealed spirit, and his strength had reached the peak. This time, Han Fei attacked again. For the first time, he used the so-called Sea King's secret method. When a thick white light enveloped him, Han Fei felt a magical power, which seemed to be a branch stretching out from the void or the nectar of the ninth heaven, suddenly falling into his body. In addition to becoming stronger, this feeling was also very comfortable. It was more comfortable than soaking in a hot spring, resting when tired, or standing for a long time. No wonder you all like to use this combat skill. When Han Fei stabbed out with his harpoon, the demon purification pot trembled. Han Fei clearly felt an inexplicable palpitation. It was as if something had broken away from him. The person on the opposite side seemed to notice that Han Fei was distracted and was attacking with all his strength. A terrifying force rolled up 100 meters of seawater and rushed at Han Fei. Gotcha! The harpoon in Han Fei's hand broke. However, the result was unexpected. Han Fei grabbed half of the iron handle in his hand and slashed across the person's chest. At that moment, the person's chest burst open and blood flowed out. Han Fei held the opponent's harpoon, and demonic energy burst out of his hand, forcibly suppressing the vibrating demonic weapon. It just so happens that I need a good weapon. Third chapter? Asking for votes. By the way, yesterday, a group member proposed to do a live stream. I've opened it up on YIN, and we can chat occasionally. What do you guys think? Welcome. If you have nothing to do, you can set a time to do a live stream. Today is the third chapter, and there should be an extra chapter tomorrow, end of this chapter. Chapter 760. Welcome the new leader, Dior. Han Fei didn't intend to stay here. What he wanted to come to was not this ordinary cultivation place, but the ancient 72-floor demon realm. If Yu Fu didn't tell him about the ancient 72-floor demon realm, Han Fei wouldn't let it go. After all, he could be both a human and a siren. As long as he wanted, he could do whatever he wanted in the world of humans and sea demons. After all, they were the same in body. So, what was the difference in cultivation level? Although he hadn't practiced the cultivation methods of the demon race yet, Han Fei didn't believe that there was anyone he couldn't beat in this ordinary cultivation field. If so, Qi Shue Huan probably wouldn't come to him. His legendary identity would no longer have any meaning. Han Fei was still walking. However, no one challenged him anymore. More people were thinking, what's the background of this azure sea blue demon? He's terrifyingly strong and he only used one blow from the beginning to the end. When he was 100 kilometers away, someone attacked. Han Fei felt that this person's momentum was not weak. Behind him stood a huge stone man tens of meters high, his body burning with white flames, and the 8 sharp claws behind him were ready to attack. The man looked at Han Fei. I know that an azure sea blue demon who can come here must be extraordinary. However, fighting is the fastest way to advance. Fight with me. Han Fei bared his teeth. This is a life and death battle. Only life and death. The man smiled. I know. Han Fei was a little puzzled. Why don't you go to the demon realm? The man grinned. Not everyone is a heavenly talent. Since you're not a heavenly talent, it's not as meaningful as this kind of life and death battle. Han Fei asked, aren't there ordinary demon realms? The man shook his head. It's meaningless. I came from the ordinary demon realm to wait for you. Han Fei nodded, thinking there are many brave sea demons. Since this man was ready to die, Han Fei wouldn't stop him. He just said lightly, you will die. As Han Fei spoke, the giant moved and punched down, shattering the seawater. Han Fei activated the majestic mystic spell and watched the huge fist mark break through the waves. Han Fei said, I forgot to tell you that my inherited secret skill is the overlord body. Boom. The seawater exploded, smoke and dust billowed, and bubbles rolled out. The shockwaves spread out for dozens of miles. With just one strike, the stone man shattered with a loud bang, as if it had never existed. That person had already charged over. However, instead of using a harpoon, he turned his hands into knives. Together with the 8 sharp thorns behind him, he was equivalent to 10 sharp blades, bombarding Han Fei. As usual, Han Fei used the harpoon in his hand to spin water as a shield. Clang, clang, clang. After 100 consecutive attacks, the man failed to penetrate Han Fei's defense. Seeing this scene, countless half-mermaids were shocked. It was a miracle that Han Fei could use the transient golden halberd to such an extent. Han Fei twisted his wrist and said casually, "This impermanence golden halberd has a technique called breaking waves by pointing stars, which requires sufficient demonic chi, fast speed, and great strength. You should all be able to use it, but have a taste of mine." Han Fei stabbed out with his harpoon. Different from before, this strike was too fast, too fast. When the seawater broke through, it was a sonic boom. This was a completely different feeling from unleashing such power in the air. In the seawater, white fireworks were ignited. Seeing this scene, the half-mermaid was horrified. This was an inherited secret technique plus the Sea King's secret method. This power was no longer something he could resist. However, if he could block this blow, he could be sure that he was only a step away from breaking through the barrier and stepping into the real sea demon realm. Fush! Crack, 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 a water column rushed out more than 100 meters. When the smoke and dust dissipated, Han Fei had already walked hundreds of meters forward. And the blades in front of the half-mermaid were all broken, none of them intact. There was a small hole between his eyebrows, from which blood flowed out. Han Fei pointed at the half-mermaid's eyebrows, and the result was already revealed. Countless pairs of eyes were full of shock. Was this really an azure sea blue demon? These people were just shocked and then whispered to each other, sending voice transmissions to each other. However, what they didn't know was that Han Fei only left a glimpse of his back. At this moment he was grimacing in pain. After all, he was facing a desperate blow from the other party. After all, he was using the body of a sea demon at the moment. Although he was not familiar with combat skills, Han Fei felt he was strong enough to fight like this. However, this also indirectly proved that the ancient 72-floor demon realm might not be so easy to break through. Even that guy just now could only break through the ordinary demon realm. And although he won, he wasn't much stronger than him. Han Fei knew that it was time for him to cultivate. After the ordinary cultivation place, there was a large open space of hundreds of kilometers. But it was not really empty. He just started walking and hadn't reached the ordinary demon realm yet. But Han Fei didn't plan to go to the demon realm immediately. After walking for more than 10 kilometers, he floated up and began to cultivate the true spirit demonic scripture. The true spirit demonic scripture said that this was an enlightening cultivation method and it was extremely difficult to become a big demon. But Han Fei was now enlightening it. Before, he didn't understand the cultivation of sea demons at all. All combat experience was gained through fighting. Who can stop him? But now he has promised us some benefits. Maybe he can help us in the future. Another half-mermaid said, "Well, even if he is a legendary creature, his growth won't be so fast. The higher the level, the slower the growth. It's still too early for him to reach our level." At this moment, Han Fei really didn't know that so many strong masters were watching him. He was shocked. What on earth was the demon essence white bead in his dantian? He was shocked at the beginning. When the snow god's temple master gave him this demon essence, he knew it was not good. Because the name demon essence was too evil. Besides, thinking of the fact that so many sea demons condensed their sea demon heroic souls for this thing, Han Fei knew that this thing must have something to do with the sea demons. He didn't know that this thing was so domineering that it forcibly absorbed demonic energy from all directions. He felt that the strange meridians in his body were crazily absorbing demonic energy like a dry desert. However, although he absorbed a lot of demonic energy, the improvement didn't seem to be much. There was no so-called marrow cleansing. After only an hour, Han Fei felt that he was full. And the speed of demonic energy absorption also slowed down. He looked at his data. Onert Han Fei level, 48, Advanced Demonic Transformation, Demonic Energy, 2032251-15392, Spiritual Power, 1912-1912 Perception Range, 19999 meters Spiritual Heritage, Level 5, High Quality Spiritual Beast, Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish, Level 40, Companion Spirit, Nun Main Art, True Spirit Demonic Scripture. Sure enough, the change is too small. Except that the spiritual energy has been completely transformed into demonic energy, and the companion spirit hasn't been born. It's basically the same as before. However, Han Fei was tempted. What if he could awaken a companion spirit? Immediately, Han Fei opened his eyes. Since the cultivation method couldn't produce qualitative changes, he might as well try to cultivate combat skills. Please vote. By the way, the EEN live stream starts at 7 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday. The EEN broadcast starts every Saturday and Sunday at 7 p.m. If I'm not there by then, it means I have something else to do. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter. Chapter 761. Han Fei chose only 3 combat skills, namely, Flying Flower Demon Flash, Flowing Light Character, and 17 Dragon Fists. He knew one thing very well: don't bite off more than you can chew. Among the many combat skills he had, bow techniques, rod techniques, seal techniques, and even footwork, none of which he was proficient in. Was it because Han Fei didn't want to learn? The main reason was that he didn't have time. Therefore, after Qixue Huan gave Han Fei more than a dozen combat skills, Han Fei only chose 3. He already had the Sea King's secret method. Besides, he didn't seem to need to learn it. However, when Han Fei used the Sea King's secret method, he always felt a little scared. This made him suspect that the side effects of using this secret method couldn't be made up for by eating more food. Han Fei decided not to use the Sea King's secret method as much as possible. Otherwise, if he used it too much and something went wrong, who could he turn to? Considering this, Han Fei chose to practice the 17 Dragon Fists first. He already had 2 Peerless Fist Marks, so it should be much easier to learn Fist Marks. The so-called 17 Fist Marks were fist marks with 17 different ways of exerting force. Some relied on the body, some relied on demonic energy, and some needed mixed spiritual energy. The last punch even needed to attract the power of tides, which coincided with the ups and downs of the tides and the flow of water. However, this was almost not difficult for Han Fei. At least, the first 10 punches were very easy for him. Han Fei had the experience of practicing the Desolate God Body, so it was very easy for him to use them. So, in the eyes of others, Han Fei blasted out 8 punches in a row. The punches were weird and the light red fist marks made smoke billow before Han Fei's eyes. Qixue Huan was also surprised. This kid started learning fist techniques and learned them so fast? Someone said, "Is this legendary level talent?" The 17 Dragon Fists seems simple, but each punch is more difficult than the last. He blasted out 8 punches in one breath. Does he want to master this fist technique in one go? Someone next to him joked, "I don't know if he can master it in one go." However, his innate talent is really strong, even more so than many of the Heaven's Chosen. Qixue Huan bared his teeth. "Fine, I'll come back in a few days." He was not allowed to come to the 10,000 Demon Tower because he wanted him to go to the 72-floor Ancient Demon Realm. I really want to see how many levels he can reach in a few days. Han Fei was practicing punching, and a half-mermaid in the distance was counting in shock. Someone was speechless. Is this guy really cultivating for the first time? Wasn't this cultivation speed a little too fast? In less than the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, he's almost done with the 17 Dragon Fists. Someone said enviously, "For the first time in my life, I'm envious of an azure sea blue demon." Han Fei didn't feel anything. He only felt that this fist technique was simple and violent, and the demonic energy that it emitted was wreaking havoc. The will was condensed, and there seemed to be a hint of an attack on the divine soul. The last strike coincided with the ups and downs of the tides. Han Fei secretly manipulated the seawater to give him a hand. In the first hour, Han Fei successfully practiced the 17 Dragon Fists. On the 3rd day, in the evening, the harpoon in Han Fei's hand turned into a beam of light and pierced out more than 500 meters in an instant. On the 7th day, Han Fei simulated the Flying Flower Demon Flash with the 64-item Fish Dragon Dance. His body turned into a series of afterimages, but he couldn't flash. Han Fei was thinking. The power of space was not so easy to master. Even if he knew the 1,000-mile fishing technique and could break the space point, it was still unrealistic to flash his body. The flying flower demon Flash explained it very clearly. Why was it called flying flower? It meant to condense the demonic energy into a piece and penetrate into the surrounding space. Then, let the demonic energy in his body resonate with the demonic energy he emitted and establish a connection. With this connection, Han Fei could appear anywhere within 20 meters of him. However, Han Fei could shoot out demonic energy petals, so it wasn't a big problem to establish a connection. However, whenever Han Fei tried to disperse himself, he would get stuck. It seemed that the void wouldn't let him go. Many sea demons were watching Han Fei cultivate. Someone was betting. I don't think the flying flower demon Flash is so easy to learn. It is said that even the most powerful Yushan took 19 days to learn this combat skill. Someone smiled bitterly. Don't forget, there is only one Yushan. Except for him, it basically took nearly 3 months or even more than half a year to learn this combat skill. Someone guessed, no matter how powerful this Yu Fei is, I'm afraid he won't be able to learn this combat skill without 10 days or half a month. While everyone was commenting, Han Fei floated directly into the water, holding a mass of demonic energy in his hand. He intended to throw this mass of demonic energy into his other hand. However, he didn't throw it normally, but directly teleported this mass of demonic energy in the air. Han Fei murmured, the so-called flying flower demonic chi is actually a mark. However, the mark is so small. How can I pull myself over? If this mass of demonic energy is not a mass of air but a knife, can I pass it with the void-breaking strike? So Han Fei flicked his hand lightly, and the mass of demonic energy disappeared and appeared in his other hand. Immediately, Han Fei cheered up. Sure enough, he was still good at attacking. Swish! When the crowd saw Han Fei's figure disappear and appear 7 or 8 meters away, they immediately wailed. He's learned it again. What kind of monstrous talent is this? Damn, how can this guy be an Azure Sea Blue Demon? Others praised Han Fei's outstanding talent, but Han Fei curled his lips. He found that this flying flower demon Flash was not fast enough and consumed a lot of energy. It could be listed as a heaven-level low-quality combat skill because it could flash. However, compared with Xia Xiaochan's flash, this thing was too weak. Although it was not easy to be discovered when it flashed, the moment it appeared, there was a flaw. It was easy to be discovered, because the space was breaking and shaking. It's not very useful. Han Fei spat. It took him 4 days to learn this thing. It didn't seem worth it. After practicing the 3 combat skills, Han Fei walked directly to the depths of the cultivation canyon. He wanted to see what the so-called demon realm was. After walking for about 20 kilometers, Han Fei saw people floating in the sea, cultivating. When they saw Han Fei, no one came up to challenge him, because in the past few days, everyone had known that there was such a monster who was talented and cultivated extremely fast. However, no one went up to say hello to Han Fei. The grudge of the half-mermaids against the Azure Sea Blue Demons was still imprinted in their hearts. It had nothing to do with talent or grade. They admitted that Han Fei was not an ordinary Azure Sea Blue Demon and was even more talented than most half-mermaids. However, after all, they were not of the same kind. They refused and didn't want to accept this person. After walking for another 40 kilometers or so, Han Fei saw the first demon realm. The so-called demon realm was a cliff cave in a canyon. Outside the cave entrance, hundreds of people gathered on the bottom of the sea, all of whom seemed to be ready to go to the cliff cave to cultivate at any time. The cave was covered by a layer of gray mist. Walking in, he should be able to see what the inside of the cliff cave immediately. However, Han Fei didn't see the demon steel. Maybe because this was just an ordinary demon realm, there was no such thing as the demon steel. Many people were looking at Han Fei. Was this alien finally coming to the demon realm? Some people looked at Han Fei unkindly, feeling that he was too proud and didn't like him. Some people were indifferent, feeling that it had nothing to do with them. Some people were looking forward to seeing if this heavenly talent who suddenly appeared could withstand the first demon realm. even if they guessed that ordinary demon realms might not be able to stop Han Fei at all. When Han Fei came over, the crowd made way for him. Ignoring them, Han Fei stepped into the gray mist with one step. The moment Han Fei entered the demon realm, he suddenly felt that the blood in his body was trembling, as if there was some kind of force trying to tear him apart. And his body's natural reaction was to tighten his skin and bulge his muscles to resist this force. A place to cultivate the body? Han Fei looked around and found that this cave was a road, about 100 meters wide, blocked by gray mist. Han Fei tried to release his perception, but he could only detect more than 20 meters away. In his perception, there were some broken limestone on the ground. On those limestone, there were sparse small vine leaves. In most places, there were even algae growing, like a storage room that had been closed for a long time. If it weren't for the traces left in many places, Han Fei would think that no one had been here for hundreds or thousands of years. Han Fei walked all the way forward. Every step he took, he felt that his blood would sway slightly, very slightly. However, when Han Fei walked hundreds of meters, he found that the tearing force was getting stronger and stronger, and some people appeared in his perception. There were half-mermaids floating, looking ferocious, as if resisting this tearing force. Han Fei grinned. How can this level of tearing force be called a demon realm? All the way forward, walking for more than 1,000 meters, there were more and more half-mermaids floating in the water. Some of them were still surrounded by faint demonic energy. Han Fei also felt that the tearing force was more than 3 times stronger than at the beginning, but it was not enough to make Han Fei feel dangerous. After walking for 3,000 meters, the force was already about 5 times stronger than when he first entered. At this moment, fewer and fewer people appeared. Interesting. The so-called demon realm is actually a way to help sea demons cultivate their body? When Han Fei walked about 5,000 meters, he found that he had come to the end. There were only 7 or 8 half-mermaids who could cultivate nearby. Of course, Han Fei didn't look for them horizontally. He didn't know how many there were, and he didn't care about this. Feeling the faint tingling from his skin, Han Fei was more sure that this ordinary demon realm was useless to him. It couldn't even help him improve at all. It seems that I still have to go to that ancient 72-floor demon realm. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 762. Han Fei came out so fast that the half-mermaids outside were surprised. Someone secretly whispered, "Did he not go inside?" Someone responded, "He should have gone inside. Don't forget, this guy killed Yu Pai with one blow. Although I don't like that guy very much, he's not bad when it comes to strength. He should have reached the end of the body-refining demon realm." Someone looked at Han Fei with a strange look and laughed to the person next to him. "I heard that this azure sea blue demon has the inheritance of the overlord body. Although I don't know what it is, the body-refining demon realm should have no effect on him. However, it's hard to say for the spiritual demon realm. The number of people there is less than half of this place." These people thought they were talking in a voice transmission and wouldn't be discovered by Han Fei. However, they didn't know that Han Fei's spiritual power had exceeded theirs by a lot. As early as when he became a hanging fisher, he could already hear voice transmissions. Leaving the body-refining demon realm, Han Fei continued to move forward, wondering, spiritual demon realm? So, ordinary secret realms are only used to temper physique and spiritual power? So, this is something that humans don't have. Otherwise, such a place would definitely be packed to the brim. After walking for about 10 kilometers, Han Fei saw a lot of people surrounding the entrance of another demon realm. However, compared with the previous body-refining demon realm, the number of people here was much smaller. Before Han Fei arrived, someone had said via voice transmission, "He's here. He's here so soon. Is he not going to stay in the body-refining demon realm anymore?" Someone grinned. "I heard that this Yu Fei is very proud. I'm afraid his goal is not the ordinary demon realm, but the ancient 72-floor demon realm." Someone nodded. "That should be right, but I don't know if the spiritual demon realm can stop him. If it can't, it means that the rise of this azure sea blue demon is just around the corner." Someone continued, If he can be stopped, it means that he is not as strong as he looks, at least not strong enough in terms of spiritual power and soul strength. A group of people waited here to watch the show. When Han Fei passed by them, he suddenly stopped and said to the nearest half-mermaid, "Why are you all outside?" The half-mermaid froze for a moment, not expecting Han Fei to talk to him. Considering Han Fei's background, he replied, "We can't stay in the demon realm all the time. We're just resting outside. When I've rested enough, I'll naturally go in again." Han Fei nodded and said indifferently, "Thank you." Han Fei walked in again. The environment was the same. The gray mist made it impossible for Han Fei to see the environment clearly. Unlike the last body-refining demon realm, Han Fei felt pressure when he entered this place. At first, its strength was roughly equivalent to that of a peak-level hanging fisher. If there were no surprises, the deeper they went, the stronger they would be. Using pressure to temper one's mental strength? If my mental energy reaches its limit, will this pressure stimulate my divine soul to make a breakthrough? Han Fei still walked forward without hesitation. However, after walking for less than 300 meters, he encountered some people floating in the water, looking up as if they were comprehending something. Han Fei thought to himself, "If a human super strong is here, I'm afraid he can kill a lot of them and eliminate the backbone of the sea demons." The pressure of ordinary strong masters didn't have any effect on Han Fei. Xiao Zhan had taught them this lesson. In the face of strong masters, they could even make a breakthrough with the help of pressure. Back then, when they were facing Xiao Zhan, they could still block him for a while. Now that they were in the demon realm, they could still block him. Sure enough, after 1,000 meters, the number of sea demons increased. After 2,000 meters, the number of sea demons began to decrease. It was also a distance of more than 5,000 meters, but in the end, the pressure Han Fei felt was only at the level of a peak-level hidden fisher. Except for a slight headache, Han Fei didn't feel anything special. It seems that ordinary demon realms are really not suitable for me. Han Fei entered and exited quickly, and it only took him about half an hour. When he came out, many people didn't speak. Many people were smiling bitterly, looking at the direction Han Fei was going. Obviously, he was going straight to the 72-floor demon realm. Immediately, someone sighed. Sure enough, the Azure Sea Blue Demon who can enter the 10,000 Demon Valley is not an ordinary person. Someone sighed. "I heard that he awakened a legendary creature." Why did he awaken into an Azure Sea Blue Demon when he was already a legendary creature? Isn't it good to awaken into a half-mermaid? Someone was speechless. Do you think you can awaken in any way you want? Doesn't this also depend on your luck? Once the direction of awakening changes slightly, the direction of cultivation may change after transforming. Someone sighed. What do you think will happen if he rushes to the demon steel? Immediately, many people were silent. The demon steel. There were only 100 names on each floor. No matter who it was, as long as they went up, it would be a glory. Which heavenly talent in the 10,000 demon tower hadn't tried to break through the demon steel? This was something that would be famous for thousands of years. Who didn't want to? However, they couldn't do it. If anyone could go up, the ancient 72-floor demon realm wouldn't be called the ancient 72-floor demon realm. The ancient 72-floor demon realm occupied 1/3 of the entire cultivation canyon. As soon as Han Fei came in, he found that someone was practicing combat skills with a golden harpoon. The man's harpoon rolled up a roll of seawater and rolled hundreds of meters away. Before Han Fei arrived, he heard the man grinning. "You're here?" Han Fei looked at him in surprise. "You're talking to me?" The man sneered, waved his hand, flattened the seawater, and put away the harpoon. Then he looked at Han Fei arrogantly. "I'm told that you are a legendary creature who has awakened and transformed. Along the way, no one was a match for you. Just like the last guy you killed, I want to try and see if you're really that talented." Han Fei was a little lost for words. "I'm just an Azure Sea Blue Demon. Why are there so many people challenging me?" Was there something wrong with his brain? Han Fei didn't think this person was weak. At the very least, he had to see what kind of weapon he was holding. Han Fei glanced at him coldly. "You use this weapon?" The man smiled, and the golden harpoon in his hand disappeared, replaced by an ultra-quality demonic weapon. I won't take advantage of you. I'm told that you don't like to fight to the death. Coincidentally, so am I. Han Fei thought to himself, this guy is so shameless. Since he could hold a golden harpoon, Han Fei didn't believe that he didn't have an immortal seal. At this moment, he was so certain that he wanted to fight to the death with him. Could it be that he wanted to kill him? But Han Fei wasn't afraid. When he was an intermediate hanging fisher, he wasn't afraid of him and could even kill him. Now he was almost at his peak. Why would he be afraid of him? Han Fei held the harpoon in his hand and activated the majestic mystic spell. He thought for a while and wanted to feel if the Sea King's secret method really had any drawbacks. Then he could take this opportunity to increase his strength by 5 times and try to kill this guy in one fell swoop. White flames appeared on Han Fei's body. Sure enough, as soon as this secret method appeared, Han Fei felt an inexplicable palpitation, as if something had been taken away from him. Han Fei used the flowing light technique. Demonic energy and spiritual energy mixed with each other frantically poured into the harpoon. It was really a cold light, piercing through the waves and the water. The seawater exploded 3 times in a row, and 3 water circles wrapped Han Fei and flashed past. The half-mermaid was also unwilling to admit defeat. He also used the Sea King's secret method, but he kept muttering the Sea King strike. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. This was the strongest blow that Yuji had ever used, and it seemed to be able to summon some kind of power. So Han Fei secretly released the majestic mystic spell a little. The two collided with each other in the sea like human-shaped missiles. Dong! Huge ripples spread in all directions, and 2 hemispherical energy shields rose from the sea from the collision, bursting out huge waves one after another. Unfortunately, the collision only lasted for a short time. Many people saw that Han Fei's harpoon tilted slightly, and with a flash, he moved forward 1/2 meter. Puff! This half-mermaid heavenly talent didn't expect that Han Fei could still use the flying flower demon flash in this situation. Although he had already felt the slight pause when Han Fei appeared, he had no chance to make a move. Seeing the broken body of the half-mermaid falling down, Han Fei put away the harpoon in his hand and said lightly, "You are not as fast as me in terms of strength." After unlocking the majestic mystic spell and the Sea King's secret method, Han Fei decided to abandon the Sea King's secret method. Although he didn't know the origin of this secret method, it seemed that it was not easy to use. The majestic mystic spell was much easier to use than the sea god's secret method. The half-mermaid heavenly talent didn't have that kind of palpitation. Han Fei felt that this secret method was flawed. Han Fei had just taken a dozen steps when the resurrected man appeared behind him, his eyes full of disbelief. He looked at Han Fei in astonishment. "How can your strength and speed be so fast?" Han Fei said without looking back, "I have the overlord body. If you attack again, there won't be a third chance." The man's face was gloomy. Han Fei's strength was beyond his expectation. He didn't know if it was his illusion, but when he saw Han Fei's harpoon coming at him, he felt that it was not a streak of light but a human spear technique. The cold light was like a flood dragon breaking out of the sea, so tough that it was frightening. Seeing this scene, many people were trembling in their hearts. A heavenly talent still couldn't resist his harpoon? Dozens of kilometers away, several heavenly talents were pondering. Is there going to be a second Qishue Huan? Han Fei knew one of them. It was Yu Yun who was defeated by him that day. The woman's eyes flickered, and she suddenly said to a person next to her, "What if I kill him?" The person next to her shook his head lightly. "You can't kill him. That will completely offend Master Qishue. After all, if Han Fei rises, he will be the second non-half-mermaid in the 10,000 Demon Valley, and his relationship with Master Qishue will be excellent." Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 763. In the Cultivation Canyon, there was always demonic energy pervading. When Han Fei walked past the ordinary demon realms, he felt that there was a kind of faint majesty floating in this water. Han Fei kept moving forward, and the number of people he could see didn't exceed the number of fingers on one hand. But Han Fei could feel that behind him, many people were following him. Were they those in the ordinary demon realms here to watch the fun? The demonic energy has become stronger, and so has the spiritual energy. Does the pressure come from the ancient 72-floor demon realm? Walking to the end of the cultivation canyon, he saw the rock wall of the giant monument and a big round hole deep into the mountain. Of course, there were some half-mermaids waiting here. In addition to Yu Yun, there were some other people who were not weak. All of them were peak-level heavenly talents. Not surprisingly, these were all heavenly talents, as many as 30 people. On the giant monument, there were countless names, 72 lines from top to bottom. Except for the first line, which was blank, every other number was followed by 100 names. With the erosion of time, those names were not incomplete, but just covered with dust. To be precise, from the 60th floor up, almost all the names were covered with dust. However, Han Fei still noticed that a guy named Yu Mo occupied the first place from the 61st to the 71st floor. Han Fei murmured, "What a tough guy." From the 61st floor down, there was no one occupying the top of the list. However, Han Fei could always find similar names in the 72 lines of names. From this, it could be seen that even according to this ranking, experts were still experts, and they could still occupy multiple rankings. In addition, there were also some names that were relatively bright and not covered with dust. For example, there was a name on the 68th floor named Cinny. For example, there was a name on the 64th floor named Yu. For example, there was a name on the 61st floor named Yu Ji. For example, there was a name on the 59th floor named Yu Yun. Han Fei couldn't help but grin. Can they be on the list? In Han Fei's opinion, Yu Ji might have some ability. In a life-and-death battle, this woman was really powerful when she went crazy. But that Yu Yun, the woman he met a few days ago, what qualifications did she have? Han Fei looked back, only to see a large group of people a kilometer away waiting there. Then, he looked at a half-mermaid not far away and asked, "Why is there only one cave in the ancient 72-floor demon realm?" The person who was asked sneered, "There are 72 floors in the ancient 72-floor demon realm, not 72 caves." The man asked, "Your name is Yu Fei. Did you come back with Yu Ji?" The man grinned and said, "Yu Ji is still investigating. She just returned to the 10,000 Demon Valley today. You've actually managed to shake her off and become acquainted with Sir Qi Shui. You are so scheming. Did you kill Yu Yu and the others?" Han Fei looked at the demon steel and found Yu Yu on the 33rd floor, ranked 75th on the 33rd floor. Han Fei bared his teeth. "So Yu Yu is also on the steel. Everyone?" Han Fei spat out 2 mouthfuls of bubbles and grinned. "Yuji is back. The truth should be out. What does it have to do with you?" Yu Yun snorted. "I heard that you almost killed Yu Fu when you just went to Yuji's refining shop. It seems that your relationship with Yuji is not very good. Even if you didn't kill Yu Yu, do you know that you will provoke many enemies?" Han Fei asked, "So?" Someone laughed. "So, if you accuse Yuji of killing him, maybe we will help you enter the 10,000 Demon Tower." Han Fei immediately laughed gloomily, which made everyone's face darken. When Han Fei's laughter stopped, he had already started to walk into the cave, saying as he walked, no wonder you can't compare with her. You don't even have the courage to challenge her head-on. Of course you are weak." Immediately, someone shouted, "Yu Fei, don't regret entering the ancient 72-floor demon realm today." Han Fei snorted. Only a fool would agree with them. "If I kill Yu Ji, I can find a chance to kill her in the future. Join you? It's a thankless task. If there's trouble, I'll take the blame." However, from these people's proposal, Han Fei could see that Yu Ji was very unsociable in the 10,000 Demon Valley. This was a good thing. If there was a chance, he could cooperate with them to kill these people. Maybe he could get a lot of good things from them. When Han Fei walked into the cave, he saw a stone tablet next to him with the words, "Come and leave your name," written on it. Han Fei thought for a while. It should be for imprinting on the demon steel outside. With this in mind, Han Fei immediately wrote the 2 words, Yu Fei, on the tablet with demonic energy. At the same time, Han Fei was thinking, on the demon steel outside, each floor has a ranking. This shows that there should be a high or low score on each floor of the so-called ancient 72-floor demon realm, but what is the standard for judgment? This also means that if I want to leave my name, I have to at least go to the extreme of a single floor. Maybe others didn't think so. Anyway, as long as I go to the extreme of the floor I can't go to and leave my name, it will be fine. But Han Fei didn't think so. Since the 10,000 Demon Valley came, no one had been able to climb to the 72nd floor. He guessed that if he wanted to climb to the 72nd floor, he would have to go to the extreme of each floor. Han Fei faintly looked forward to it. I wonder what I will encounter next? Is it the body-strengthening demon realm? Spirit demon realm? Or something else? Continuing to go inside, when Han Fei saw the gray mist, he took a deep breath. He was now a sea demon, and there was a demonic energy bead in his body. If he could get this opportunity that should belong to a sea demon, it would be good. After all, there was only one opportunity. When he left, who knew if he would have a chance to come back again? Thinking of this, Han Fei stepped into it without hesitation. This time, there was no gray mist in his field of vision, but some sea creatures condensed by demonic energy and a large number of soul explosion fish. This kind of fish had no other abilities but was very angry and would self-destruct at any time. Seeing Han Fei coming in, the dense soul explosion fish fixed their eyes on Han Fei. Needless to say, they directly rushed at him. However, these were not living creatures to begin with. They were masses of demonic qi. Han Fei couldn't read their data, so he could only let them hit him. Han Fei was speechless. I don't know where this is. What do you mean by showing me a group of soul explosion fish? Bam, bam, bam. Explosions came one after another. When Han Fei felt the first explosion, he had already drawn 2 conclusions. The level of these soul explosion fish should be about 43 to 44, and their strength was at the level of a peak-level junior hanging fisher, or a little higher. Secondly, every time these soul explosion fish self-destructed, Han Fei would feel that there seemed to be a strange power that wanted to hit his soul. However, this kind of power that hit his soul was very weak, so Han Fei didn't care at all. The waves were rolling and the explosions were roaring, but Han Fei was like a piece of black iron nailed to the water, motionless. Han Fei even grinned. He easily guessed the meaning of this level. It was nothing more than to test whether his physique and soul had passed through this power. If he didn't pass, then he didn't have to go to the next level. In just a moment, hundreds of explosions occurred. If it were an ordinary person, he would think, how to defend? How to enter the next level? But Han Fei was different. If you want to blow me up, then blow me up. Grandpa blinked. I don't believe it. However, what surprised Han Fei was that why these soul explosion fish only blew him up. Is there no one else here? Or could it be that the others had all gone up to the surface? Outside, there were already thousands of people around. Someone suddenly pointed to the demon steel and said, "Look, Yu Fei's name has appeared on the first level." Someone laughed and said, "His name is at the bottom, which means that he is not qualified to be on the list. If he comes out now, nothing will be left." Someone said, "How many levels do you think he can go up?" Someone pondered, "I estimate that he should be able to go up to the 30th level. However, it's not easy to leave his name. Why don't you think about how many hits the soul explosion fish on the first floor can take if it goes all out?" Someone shook his head. "Weapons can't be used in the ancient 72-floor demon realm. It's really difficult to break through with only your body." Han Fei's brain was buzzing. It wasn't an injury. It was just a simple buzzing sound. It was like setting off firecrackers, hundreds and thousands of times. Anyone who heard it would be annoyed. Han Fei walked forward impatiently, ignoring the turbulent seawater and the shockwave of the explosion. The rock wall here was like compacted volcanic ash. It was the same under his feet and on the rock wall to the side. However, when Han Fei let the soul explosion fish explode and the shock wave of the explosion hit the edge, Han Fei was surprised to find that there were fish head pits on those rock walls. The so-called fish head pits were grooves on the rock wall, each with a fish bone head. Shit, what the hell is this place? He punched at those soul explosion fish irritably and wanted to take out his harpoon to kill them, only to find that his sea-swallowing seashells were useless. He tried Forge the Universe, but it was also ineffective. You don't allow me to use weapons? Well, go ahead. I'll stand still and let you blow me up. How long will it take for you to injure me? After 100 minutes, Han Fei even began to cultivate. The exploded demonic energy rolled into his body, was refined by his demonic energy, and became pure demonic energy that scattered around his body or became a reserve. Half an hour later, there were fewer and fewer explosions. In the end, Han Fei could only see a few sporadic soul explosion fish rushing at him. It's finally quiet. Han Fei grinned. The test should be over now, right? I should be able to go to the next floor now. What Han Fei didn't know was that many people outside were dumbfounded. Someone was speechless. Why isn't he moving? Is this guy's body so hard? Someone sighed. I heard that he has the Overlord body. Maybe the soul explosion fish can't hurt him, right? Someone frowned. But he doesn't have to endure it all the time, does he? There are endless soul explosion fish. Even if he is only injured a little each time, he should. His ranking has moved. When this person spoke, everyone stared at the stone tablet and saw that Han Fei's name suddenly jumped from the last to the second last. As for the second last name, it disappeared without a trace. From then on, no one would remember it. See, King, this bastard is already on the list on the first floor? Look, his ranking has moved up again. So fast, he moved up again. His ranking is still rising. After a while, when everyone saw that Han Fei's name came to the first place on the first floor, they looked at each other. Damn it, how many times did he have to self-destruct to get to the first place on the first floor? Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 764. In the Gray Cave, without the soul explosion fish, Han Fei finally had a chance to appreciate what kind of demon realm this was. Why did so many people flock to it? Except for the rock wall full of fish heads just now, Han Fei didn't find a human or half-mermaid corpse here. He couldn't help guessing, is it possible that people don't die here? But after thinking about it, he didn't think so. The power of the soul explosion fish was clearly felt. Not everyone could withstand it, right? Han Fei wanted to ask Ninetails to dig a hole and have a look. However, he seemed to have lost contact with his contractual creature. Not only Ninetails, but even Little Black and Little White couldn't be summoned. Han Fei frowned. The first floor is so difficult. How can I go up to the 72nd floor? Thinking of this, Han Fei decided to take it one step at a time. The size of the cave was 3,000 meters long. To be precise, it was like a passage. It was just a little wider. At the end of the passage, there was an array on the ground. Han Fei observed it for a while and recognized that it was a teleportation array. It operated by itself by absorbing demonic energy. Han Fei didn't know much about teleportation arrays, so he deliberately memorized it. In the future, maybe he could improve it and turn it into a teleportation array that used spiritual energy. After a while, Han Fei felt that he had memorized it. So Han Fei stepped into the array and entered the next floor. Ha! A tearing force came again. It was no different from the ordinary demon realm he had passed before. This was a demon realm for tempering one's physique and there was no need to fight. However, this time, Han Fei clearly felt that the tearing force was different. It was not that the strength was greater, but there seemed to be a kind of anger in this strange coercion. It was obviously the same level of coercion, but here, it was several times more difficult than in the ordinary demon realm. Unfortunately, Han Fei felt that it was not a big problem for him. Han Fei walked all the way to the end and saw the array on the ground. Han Fei suddenly remembered, how does a demon realm for tempering one's physique rank the trial takers according to their performance? No, it can't be like this. Is it based on the length of time? That's ridiculous. Han Fei closed his eyes, feeling the changes in his body. After a while, Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes turned white as he activated the eyes of truth. Sure enough, he found that in this space, there was not only demonic chi and spiritual chi, but also a faint blued. A divine soul? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. There were a few soul light spots in this space. Han Fei frowned and stepped on a spirit-gathering array. In the end, because his own spiritual energy had been converted into demonic energy, when he stepped out of the array, he did not gather any spiritual energy. Instead, he gathered a huge amount of demonic energy. For a moment, two questions popped up in Han Fei's mind. Becoming a sea demon and obtaining demonic aura was easier than obtaining spiritual energy? Of course not. Sea demons basically fought with spiritual energy. Or rather, the spirit chi and demonic chi were mixed in his body, but he seemed to have pure demonic chi. It was just that when he attacked, he would still attract the spirit chi. That was not all. Anyway, demonic chi and spiritual chi were two similar things. Was there a way to directly convert them? Of course, this was not the time to care about this. He just wanted to try to control the soul light spots with the spirit concentration art. He was quite talented in the spirit concentration technique. Soon, Han Fei found the reason. It was the same with the spirit gathering array. If he used demonic energy to attract spiritual energy, the method was wrong. At this moment, his sea-swallowing seashell and forge the universe couldn't be used, and he couldn't take out the spiritual spring. Otherwise, he only needed to use spiritual energy as a guide, and he could also use the body of a sea demon to attract spiritual energy. So, did it mean that as long as he split his soul, it would also be possible to use his soul to attract the spirit chi? Immediately, Han Fei began to try. Enduring the excruciating pain, Han Fei split a tiny bit of blue soul flame. Han Fei used the method of a spirit gatherer and his own soul as a guide. Sure enough, a large number of soul light spots gathered over. Outside, some half-mermaid heavenly talents were discussing. Someone said, "I wonder if you Fei can detect that from the second level onwards. It's the method of disassembling demonic energy and spiritual energy." Yu Yun snorted. "It's hard to say. He has never been to the 72-floor demon realm, so it's very likely that he can't find it. He can get the first place on the first level, which means his physique is strong. But from the second level onwards, if he thinks it's just pressure tempering, then he's wrong." After a while, Han Fei gathered a soul that was the same size as the one he had split off. Han Fei was hesitating whether he should swallow this soul or not. Swallow? They are all ownerless souls. Even if there's a problem, I can just separate them again. As he swallowed, the soul entered his body. Han Fei suddenly felt a little clearer, and his soul seemed to be a little stronger. Good place. Han Fei was overjoyed. Usually, things like souls could only grow naturally. Either make a breakthrough or use soul crystals. He didn't expect that there was such a way to strengthen the soul. Fortunately, he accidentally obtained the soul-splitting technique in the snow god's temple. Fortunately, he was a spirit gatherer. Otherwise, he might not even know that there were ownerless souls here. Even if he knew, he couldn't gather them. Han Fei grinned. Now, I should be able to be listed on the list, right? Wait. Thinking of the list, Han Fei suddenly frowned. Wait, only 1 in 10,000 people can do such a difficult thing. There are opportunities and coincidences. Without the soul-splitting technique, how can others absorb the ownerless souls here? Han Fei once again resisted the urge to continue going up. Was he afraid that he had misunderstood? The pulling force in his body was still there. It was not strong, but it felt wrong. Han Fei sat down and pondered for a long time, looking at the spiritual energy light spots and demonic chi light spots in his eyes. Suddenly, he was surprised to find that the spiritual energy and demonic chi light spots here looked smaller than those in his body. Immediately, Han Fei gathered a bit of demonic chi on his fingertip with the technique of a spirit gatherer. But then he found that the demonic chi outside was much smaller than the one in his body. It was almost half the size. What do you mean? Is there a problem with my demonic chi, or is there a problem with the demonic chi here? Han Fei was stunned for a long time. He decided to dismantle his demonic chi. Previously, when Han Fei was learning refining, he had tried to refine spiritual energy in the spirit-fusing scripture and break it up during refining. At that time, the more the spiritual energy was broken and scattered, it would form spiritual energy flames. Then, in the same way, refining demonic qi would also produce demonic qi flames. Immediately, Han Fei pulled a strand of demonic qi out of his body and tried it. Sure enough, as soon as the spirit-fusing scripture started, the demonic qi began to become unstable. Then, it began to scatter, forming a flame-like demonic fire. Han Fei grinned. So that's how it is. The purpose of this demon realm is to separate the demonic qi. Does it mean that the demonic qi will be very powerful if it's separated? Han Fei looked at this bit of demonic qi, focused his spiritual will on it, and peeled it for a long time. He peeled it carefully and sweated profusely. The demonic qi was about 1/10 smaller than before. Fuck, it's so difficult. Han Fei wondered if he was wrong to separate the demonic qi. He originally wanted to split it in half. But if he did, the demonic qi would scatter and not be stable. Twice. 3 times. In the outside world, many half-mermaids who came from the ordinary demon realms were impatient. If Han Fei hadn't taken the first place on the first floor, they would have left long ago. Someone was speechless. What is he doing inside? I've seen heavenly talents go in before. That's 5 or 6 floors in half an hour. The highest one is on the 8th or 9th floor. It's been almost 2 hours and he's still on the 2nd floor. Someone shook his head. I'm afraid it's difficult. His ranking hasn't changed. A heavenly talent sneered. It's so difficult to disassemble demonic qi. Others slowly disassemble it at home and replace their demonic qi before they come to the demon realm. If he disassembles it now, how long will it take? Suddenly, on the demon steel, Yu Fei's name suddenly appeared on the 82nd floor. Someone was stunned. Is the demon steel broken? How can there be people jumping around in the rankings? Someone's expression changed. Damn it, did he cheat? Someone retorted. Where do you think this is? The ancient 72-floor demon realm. Try cheating. Just as everyone was discussing, a figure appeared behind them. Someone inadvertently glanced at her and immediately said respectfully, Miss Yu-ji. The person who came was Yu-ji. Her face was indifferent as if Yu-Yu's matter had been dealt with. After Yu-ji arrived, she saw Yu-Yun and the others, and then looked at the demon steel, only to see that Yu Fei had directly rushed to the first place on the first floor, which surprised her. Did he break the record as soon as he came? Yu-Yun saw Yu-ji and sneered. Yu-ji, I heard that you want to subdue this Yu Fei? I'm afraid his talent is even higher than yours, right? Yu-ji looked indifferent. If he's better than me, he must be better than you. Do you still have the mood to watch? Yu-Yun's face was gloomy. Humph, it's true that people like you are with people like you. 2 proud guys, do you think you can have sex with each other? I'm afraid you will give birth to a monster. Yu-ji's face turned cold. Yu-Yun, don't be so shameless. If you dare to say such words again, I will definitely kill you when I enter the secret realm. Outside, there was a commotion. Han Fei was holding his breath and concentrating. He used the spirit-fusing technique and the spirit-gathering art together. First, he melted a part of the demonic energy with the spirit-fusing technique, and then absorbed a little bit with the spirit-gathering art. Finally, the size of a bit of demonic energy was about 1/8 smaller. Outside, everyone only saw that Han Fei's name suddenly jumped from the 82nd place to the 9th place. Everyone was dumbfounded by this kind of leap, including Yu-ji. Yu-ji was dumbfounded. Is that guy really so talented? Someone rolled his eyes. Damn, why don't you jump to the first place? Chapter. Asking for votes. This is a transitional chapter. I'll finish it quickly. Today is Saturday, 7 p.m., live broadcast. If you are bored, you can watch me typing on the keyboard. End of this chapter. Chapter 765. In the past, Han Fei had suspected that the so-called 72-floor demon realm must be a place to help sea demons cultivate. Since it was to help sea demons cultivate, Every demon realm here must have its own purpose. The second floor of the demon realm was definitely not to absorb ownerless souls. It was too difficult. Except for him, no one could do it at all. Those ownerless souls were probably left by the dead people, and he had benefited from them. Disassembling the demonic energy made Han Fei's heart tremble. If he reduced the spiritual energy to half of the original amount, would there be double the amount of demonic energy out of thin air? Based on this idea, Han Fei continued for 3 hours. Finally, when Han Fei disassembled about 1/5 of the original demonic energy, he couldn't disassemble it anymore. Once he tried to disassemble it, the demonic energy point would collapse. It seems that I have to go to the next floor? Han Fei didn't know if he had disassembled it to the extreme. However, he was a spirit gatherer after all. He couldn't be more useless than those sea demons, right? However, what Han Fei didn't know was that on the demon steel outside, the 2 words Yu Fei had directly entered the first place of the second floor, which shocked everyone. Seeing Han Fei enter the 3rd floor, all the heavenly talents, including Yu Ji, had a strange feeling. Did Han Fei stay on each floor for so long to break the record of each floor? But how did he know that he had broken the record? In fact, Han Fei certainly didn't know. After coming to the 3rd floor, the pressure became stronger and stronger. And the ownerless souls in the demon realm seemed to be more than on the 2nd floor. Han Fei used the soul-splitting technique again, split his soul, led these ownerless souls, and gathered them together. The rest was still disassembling the demonic energy. Could it be that the pressure he exerted was different? The difficulty of disassembling on the 3rd floor was much better than on the 2nd floor. 2 hours later, Han Fei looked at the demonic energy that was still less than a quarter of the normal demonic energy point and was lost in thought. I don't know the ranking. It's really a troublesome thing. Forget it, it's my first time here, so I'd better not consider the ranking. I'll come back for the ranking again in the future. The 1st floor. The 2nd floor. The 3rd floor. When he reached the 18th floor, Han Fei was overjoyed. The pressure in the cave had exceeded that of a peak-level hidden fissure. The pressure has increased. It actually stimulated my physique a little. Not bad. A moment later, the blue ownerless soul was swallowed by Han Fei and became part of his soul. Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes. I've only reached the 18th level, but the strength of my soul has increased by about 10%. What a terrifying speed of improvement. Han Fei was even a little horrified. This was not an improvement of strength, but the improvement of soul. The divine soul was such a miraculous thing. What kind of concept was increasing by 10%? It might be equivalent to breaking through once, or even twice. For example, the perception range of those peak-level hanging fissures was far worse than his. This was his advantage. The strength of one's mental strength was attributed to the strength of one's soul. Han Fei felt that if he could swallow all the way to the 72nd floor, the strength of his soul would probably increase by 50%. He could probably surpass many hidden fissures. After collecting the ownerless soul, Han Fei continued to disassemble the demonic energy. On the 17th floor, he almost stripped the size of the demonic energy to half of its original size. He should be able to do it on this floor. Han Fei used the spirit gathering art in one hand and the spirit fusing technique in the other for a whole hour. Finally, after the demonic energy trembled for a long time, it didn't collapse. This meant that the stripping succeeded this time. The demonic energy was successfully disassembled into 2 points by Han Fei. Immediately, Han Fei was so excited that he almost subconsciously tried it. Han Fei exploded the spiritual energy on his left and right hands. As a result, there was a violent explosion in his hands and a splash burst out. Its power was actually twice as strong as that of a normal demonic energy. Wow! Han Fei suddenly widened his eyes and looked at his hands incredulously. Disassembling demonic energy can actually improve the strength of demonic energy? Han Fei took a deep breath. This meant that 1 point of demonic energy could be used as 2 points of demonic energy, and it was the same for spiritual energy. Han Fei suddenly remembered that with the improvement of one's realm, one of the big differences between high and low realms was the strength of spiritual energy. It was the same amount of spiritual energy, But the power that could be exerted was completely different. At this moment, Han Fei seemed to have opened the door to a new world. What if I'm in the same realm? Everyone has 100 points of spiritual energy, but my 100 points can be used as 200 points of spiritual energy. This is more than just a big gap in realm. Immediately, Han Fei was horrified. If every sea demon could do this, how terrifying would it be? If it was like this on the 18th floor, what about the 19th floor? Outside, more and more people gathered here. Even dozens of sea demon realm powerhouses had come. Qixue Huan came late. Seeing the demons steal from a distance, he was also horrified. Every time he passes a floor, he will be the first. Is Yu Fei's talent really so strong? Beside Qixue Huan, a cold-eyed sea demon said with a strange look, Qixue Huan, I went to that secret realm with Yu Ji in person. Although there seems to be a second guardian creature, we couldn't find its trace. Do you think it's possible that Yu Fei deliberately hid something? Qixue Huan snorted coldly. Yu Hanjia, although Yu's talent is not bad, it's not enough to make you pay so much attention to him, right? What you care more about should be the fateful holy grass. This half-mermaid was Yu Hanjia, a super strong sea demon ranked 8th among the 8 wings of Blue Feather, and also Yu's nominal master. At this moment, Yu Hanjia's eyes were deep. This boy is so talented. Why did he come to my 10,000 Demon Valley? I'm afraid he can go to the royal city, right? Qixue Huan sneered. Neither you nor I know where the royal city is. He has just transformed. How can he know? A legendary creature should have the characteristics of a legendary creature. If he can pass all the 72 floors of the demon realm and win all the first places, he will definitely become the best of the young generation. Yu Hanjia asked, didn't you have an agreement with him? You'll let him go after 3 things. Will such a person stay? Qixue Huan nodded. As long as there are enough benefits, no matter how talented he is, he will stay. For example, a divine weapon, or a cultivation technique beyond the heaven level. Han Fei had entered the 19th floor. This time, there was no pressure. Han Fei saw the harpoon beside his hand. Swish, swish, swish. Although Han Fei couldn't perceive it, the eyes of true vision were still there. He saw invisible creatures lurking in the water. The moment he appeared, a series of attacks that were as sharp as knives swept over. Dark thornfish? Dark thornfish, a kind of assassin-type creature, was a kind of contractual spiritual beast that hunters particularly loved. Similarly, most of them were dangerous. If one encountered a school of dark thornfish in the ocean, the consequences would be terrible. It would be like encountering thousands of hunters. Ordinary people might not be able to survive at all. Although dark thornfish were sold on the Scattered Stars Island, they were basically caught by hanging fishers in the air. No one dared to run into the sea stupidly and catch dark thorned fish among the schools of fish. Han Fei was speechless. They really think highly of me. This is much more dangerous than the soul explosion fish. Clang! When the first dark stickleback fish hit Han Fei, he felt a sharp pain where he was stabbed. Beyond level 45, I'm afraid it's at level 46 or even level 47. No, it hasn't reached the strength of an advanced hanging fisher, but it's definitely at the peak of the intermediate level. Han Fei was horrified and didn't dare to neglect. He grabbed the harpoon that had been placed beside him with one hand and gathered demonic energy. Clang! A stream of light blasted out, and dozens of dark thorned fish rolled away. Immediately, Han Fei used the water-spinning shield of the impermanent golden halberd again. In the face of such endless attacks, only this powerful defensive water shield could protect him. Bam, bam, bam. Again and again, the invisible dark thorns collapsed one after another, turning into clouds of demonic energy and dispersing in the water. And the water shield in Han Fei's hand was broken again and then condensed again and again. Han Fei cursed in his heart, there are so many of them. How can ordinary people have enough demonic energy? But then Han Fei thought, what if all the demonic energy in my body is divided into 2 parts? Doesn't that mean that 1 point of demonic energy can be used as 2 points? I see. But how can I do that in a fucking battle? After fighting for half an hour, Han Fei was sore all over. As early as the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the water-swirling shield technique was already useless. There were too many dark stickleback fish. At this moment, countless pale red fist marks swept across the water. The 17 dragon fists were fierce and domineering, and there was even a hint of golden light on the pale red fist marks. Clang, clang, clang. Clang, clang, clang. When Han Fei completely became a target, he sighed. Fine, I'll secretly use the art of invincibility. The people outside won't notice it, right? Boom. Outside, on the 19th level of the demon realm, the name Yu Fei kept rising, and countless people fell silent. Yu Ji murmured, "So, what kind of azure sea blue demon are you?" Yu Yun and the other half-mermaids, who were still trying to deceive Han Fei, were all horrified at this moment. Someone glanced at Yu Yun. Forget it, this person has already succeeded. We can't stop him. If we can find a way to resolve the misunderstanding, let's give it a try. Yu Yun opened her mouth. Occupying the first place is a miracle that has never happened in thousands of years. How could she have expected this? Now that she had already offended him, how could she resolve the resentment? Someone sighed. Azure Sea Blue Demon. An Azure Sea Blue Demon. An Azure Sea Blue Demon that has broken the record of 18 levels in a row. How can we survive this? First, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 766. The dark sticker fish transformed by demonic energy were all dead. Han Fei walked down to the next floor. According to his guess, everyone who entered this ancient 72-floor demon realm should encounter an independent space. How did he do it? Otherwise, he should have seen it along the way. After entering the 20th floor, the pressure came again, and this time it faintly began to affect the demonic energy in Han Fei's body. Han Fei frowned. The pressure was great, but it couldn't suppress him. But the demonic energy in his body seemed to show signs of abnormal movements, which made him very uncomfortable. Do I really have to disassemble all the demonic energy in my body? As always, after collecting the ownerless souls here, Han Fei began to try to disassemble all the demonic energy in his body. Unlike disassembling a little demonic energy, he now had 15,392 points of demonic energy in his body. This was not a small number. If he disassembled it bit by bit, it would be impossible to complete it without a few years. Han Fei grinned. I can refine myself as a spiritual weapon. Then I'll pass your ancient 72-floor demon realm. There was no spirit gatherer among sea demons. They might have a way to gather demonic energy, but no sea demon had ever mobilized the demonic energy between heaven and earth. Otherwise, when a sea demon mastered the means of a spirit gatherer and the spirit refining technique, it was very likely that he could disassemble demonic energy. Of course, this was not a simple thing either. Just like Han Fei, he was thinking too. If he only disassembled all the demonic energy in his body, there would only be so much demonic energy after disassembly. Once it was used up, it would be over. But if he wanted all the demonic energy in his body to be this large in the future, he needed to solve this problem fundamentally. When the demonic energy or spiritual energy entered his body, it would automatically be disassembled, which was the key to the problem. So Han Fei tried to use the spirit-fusing scripture and the spirit gatherer at the same time. After a while, Han Fei shook his head. No, the spirit-fusing scripture doesn't seem to be enough. Han Fei immediately thought of something. Since the spirit-fusing scripture was no longer enough, he naturally had to deduce a refining technique that could be used. Although the power of the demon purification pot couldn't be used, deduction was not an option. The demon purification pot could complete that on its own, provided that there was enough spiritual energy. Deduce. Han Fei had 60 million points of spiritual energy, and it only required 5 million points to deduce the spirit-fusing scripture, which was enough. A moment later, a message appeared in the gray fog in his mind. Spirit fire transformation, heaven level high quality. Note, it is a method to refine all things. It can transform into 100 flames and coincides with the origin of all things. In the hands of different people, it could display different effects. Derived cultivation method, solution of all things completion rate, 0/10, 000, 6 hours later. A scarlet flame appeared on Han Fei's fingertip, and 100 points of spiritual energy were cracking and melting in the demonic fire. With his other hand, Han Fei forcibly pulled out half of the demonic energy with the help of a spirit gatherer. It took him half an hour to dismantle the 100 points of spiritual energy. Phew! It was probably because he was not familiar enough with the spiritual fire transformation. If he wanted to completely master it, it would probably take more than a month. I can't wait any longer. Let's do it bit by bit. After entering the ancient 72-floor demon realm, Han Fei seemed to have entered a huge treasure house. There were a large number of ownerless souls in the treasury for him to collect. Just for these ownerless souls, Han Fei had to go all the way. This was much faster than the enhancement of his soul brought by the improvement of his realm. Time flew by. 7 days passed in a flash, and the outside world was already crowded with people. There were a lot of names appearing on the demon stele at the same time, and people kept coming out and going in. However, there was only one name, so the progress was very slow. But as long as he moved, there would be something amazing. At this moment, Yu Fei's name had dominated all the rankings from the first floor to the 35th floor. One person occupied 35 seats, which was an unprecedented event in the 10,000 Demon Valley. Naturally, it attracted countless people to come and watch. At this time, even a fool knew that the Azure Sea Blue Demon was a peerless heavenly talent. A peerless heavenly talent evolved from a legendary creature. 6 of the 8 wings of Blue Feather had come, and the heavenly talents of the 10,000 Demon Tower had all arrived. Some people wanted to witness this miracle, while others wanted to see when Han Fei would fail. After all, what the 10,000 Demon Valley half-mermaids and half-mermaids failed to do for thousands of years was done by an Azure Sea Blue Demon. No one would be able to accept this. At the forefront, someone said with a solemn expression, "After the 36th floor, it's no longer as simple as disassembling spiritual energy. Can this Yu Fei still make it?" Someone had already stood next to Yu Ji and asked, "Yu Ji, where did you find this person? It seems that he is quite talented in disassembling spiritual energy. When he comes out, his strength will almost double." Someone said to Yu Ji, "I'm afraid you can't subdue this person. I'm afraid he is even more talented than you and me, isn't he?" Yu Ji had been waiting here for 7 days. She had mixed feelings. She didn't expect this. Who could have known that the person she met randomly would be so talented? However, Yu Ji changed her mind about subduing Han Fei. If Han Fei was so talented, then there would definitely be a place for him in the exploration of the demon realm in a few days. Even in the future, Han Fei would always consider her. After all, it was she who protected Han Fei all the way. Yu Ji said lightly, "Let's wait for him to come out." Suddenly, someone exclaimed, "Look, Yu Fei is already the first on the 36th floor." Yu Ji's eyes flashed. It seems that he has completed the decomposition and transformation of all the demonic energy in his body. Han Fei had already stepped into the 37th floor. Ghost Spirit Fish? As soon as he came in, Han Fei felt his blood freeze. How could he survive this? The Ghost Spirit Fish was something he had encountered in the Level 3 fishery. This was a kind of transparent and slender silver-gray fish, which had the power to directly attack souls and could even parasitize souls. It couldn't be hit physically and could only attack souls. However, Han Fei didn't know how to attack souls. As soon as he came in, the spiritual pressure in the sky suddenly fell. Puff! Han Fei vomited a mouthful of blood, and then blood flowed out of his eyes, nose, and mouth. In his mind, the demon purification pot seemed to be trembling, as if it was forcibly blocking the spiritual attacks in the sky. Damn it! After the 36th floor, it turns out to be spiritual attacks. Han Fei already knew the rules. Every time a creature appeared, it was actually to test the strength of the trial takers. The first 36 floors tested Han Fei's physique and mastery of demonic energy. The ownerless souls didn't seem to be a test, but were accidentally discovered by him. They were left by those dead trial takers and then absorbed by him. The next 36 floors had just begun, but Han Fei felt that he couldn't hold on anymore. No, these ghost spirit fish are not real and can't parasitize other people's souls. Therefore, they only have the ability to attack souls, but not the ability to parasitize. Han Fei covered his head. His divine soul was indeed powerful now. However, he had been passively defending against soul attacks and couldn't kill the opponent. How could he go down? The first thing that came to Han Fei's mind was the soul-splitting technique. At this time, Han Fei roared, and with an indescribable pain, a ray of blue light appeared. The deep blue divine soul landed directly on a ghost spiritual fish. The next moment, Han Fei felt a burst of violence. He seemed to be fighting with something for control of his body. Possession. At that moment, Han Fei felt as if there were two of him. One was guarding his soul, and the other was fighting with an unknown spiritual power, as if they were fighting. In his soul perception, it was a wisp of ownerless soul. However, somehow, the ownerless soul could turn into a ghost spirit fish and had the consciousness to attack. Under his crazy snatching, the wisp of ownerless soul was assimilated. However, Han Fei himself was bleeding, gasping for breath and covering his head with his hands. If it weren't for the demon purification pot's protection, at this moment, he just wanted to escape from this demon realm. No, the soul-splitting technique can kill it. In this case, I'll possess it first. Under the unbearable pain, wisps of souls floated out of Han Fei's mind. When 49 wisps floated out, Han Fei suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. No, I can't split anymore. Han Fei had already split his soul very carefully, almost splitting all the ownerless souls he had snatched on the first 36 floors. Then he split nearly 20% of his divine soul. Only then did 49 wisps of soul flames condense. About 10 breaths later, about 50 ghost spirit fishes were possessed. And once the ghost spirit fish were possessed, the ownerless souls lost their sense of power and became ownerless souls again. Under Han Fei's control, they continued to possess the next batch of ghost spirit fish. But what Han Fei didn't know was, on the demon steel outside, his name directly jumped into the top 10 the moment the first batch of ghost spirit fish died. This scene caused countless people to exclaim in surprise. Someone was shocked. How could he be so fast? The ghost spirit fish on the 37th floor can't be killed without a powerful soul bombardment. Why didn't he find a way to quickly enter the next floor? Why did he fight with the ghost spirit fish? Even Qishue Huan was very surprised. It seems that I still underestimated him. No wonder he is a legendary creature. Not only has he inherited the overlord body, but even his spiritual secret method is so powerful. Someone frowned. It's more than powerful. Spiritual secret methods are extremely rare for both sea demons and human beings. We're even better than humans. But Yu Fei can launch such a powerful spiritual attack as soon as he transformed. I'm afraid it's also the power of inheritance, right? Someone agreed. Or, Yu Fei's bloodline has actually been awakened? If it hadn't been awakened, how could his spiritual secret method be so terrifying? The second chapter. Please vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 767. Many people outside were still praising Han Fei, thinking that he was talented. At this moment, Han Fei was leaning against the rock wall, constantly using the divine healing technique on himself. However, because Han Fei was using demonic energy now, the divine healing technique was no longer a holy white light, but a strange bright red. However, no matter what color it was useful. Han Fei was also puzzled. In fact, sea demons could actually use all kinds of techniques that human beings practiced. So, why didn't the 5 major professions exist among sea demons? Han Fei felt that if the combat skills were interoperable and pure spiritual energy turned into demonic energy, then theoretically, the 5 major professions should still be able to develop. Unless human beings and sea demons had different physiques. In this special profession, they needed to use the meridians all over their body, So the sea demons didn't develop the 5 major professions. Han Fei curled his lips. Stabbing around with a harpoon every day, and his combat skills were purely for killing. That was not a bad thing. If not for this, how could sea demons be the opponent of human beings? After a while, Han Fei's injuries were almost healed. Han Fei frowned and was about to go to the next floor. If there was no accident, there should be no more ghost spiritual fish on the next floor. It was estimated that there would only be new creatures on the 55th floor. Then the 55th floor was the most difficult floor in the ancient 72-floor demon realm. The 38th floor. Han Fei stepped in, only to feel as if his head was being pricked by a needle. It seemed that there was an inexplicable force in the sea, trying to pierce his soul. But this force was not an attack, but more like a kind of ownerless soul bumping around. With the eyes of true vision, Han Fei smiled. There were more ownerless souls here. Han Fei was very excited. From beginning to end, Han Fei liked to absorb these ownerless souls the most. Collecting them was as simple as collecting spiritual energy. However, he didn't know how many of these blue flames there were. At this moment, Han Fei felt that his soul power was at least 20% stronger than before he came in, and his perception in all aspects was also much stronger. Unfortunately, he tried to cultivate the God-scaring painting here. He didn't know what kind of power affected him, but he couldn't concentrate. However, this matter was not urgent. Since his soul had been strengthened, his memory of the God-scaring painting would definitely be accelerated. Perhaps when he went out, he would remember another 10 or so pieces of the God-scaring painting. Han Fei was quite curious. What was painted on the God-scaring painting? He had previously guessed that it was a visualization diagram. However, shouldn't there also be some kind of portrait in the visualization diagram? Now, in the God-scaring painting, there was not even a clue of the painting. This was what made him anxious. At this moment, Han Fei collected the ownerless souls and walked for about 1,000 meters, only to see that the end of the road was blocked. On the grayish-white rock wall, there was a row of strange words. Words! There were only a few words in this line, and they were twisted like the marks left by a crab. To say that it was a character would be overestimating it. He closed his eyes and sensed in his mind. The demon purification pot did not record this thing, so it was probably not some kind of demonic technique. However, when he looked at the line of words, he felt a little uneasy, as if he was being watched by something. Han Fei's eyelids twitched slightly. When he saw this line of words, he felt a wave of mental power drilling into his brain. Spiritual energy? On those unknown words, there seemed to be some kind of spiritual power exuding. Han Fei released some of his spiritual energy, only to feel that there was a spiritual entity in his body, imprinting on those words. Let me copy it? Han Fei couldn't help but be a little curious. Was the content of this level to copy these words? Is this also a test? Han Fei directly released his spiritual energy and imprinted on these evil words. Word by word, he copied it. It felt like he was just beginning to learn how to manipulate objects. It felt like he was walking against the wind and had to withstand a gust of strong wind. However, he was used to the 10,000 knives in one technique, so copying a few words was nothing. Han Fei copied it fluidly like flowing water, and it took him less than 10 seconds in total. After copying this line of words, the passage of the array was immediately opened. Han Fei sneered. So this is it? The ancient 72-floor demon realm is just SOSO. Outside, the onlookers were already numb. Yu Fei's name had become the top of the 37th floor. Someone couldn't help but laugh. It's over. We have no chance. How can it be so easy to be the first? Someone sighed. Another top of the list. It seems that even the spiritual energy copying can't stop him. Someone suddenly said, "Look, he entered the 38th floor." In less than 10 minutes, Han Fei's name swooshed to the first place again. The group of people was speechless. Wow, how can he be so fast? Sea King Almighty, has he finished copying it just like that? Someone exclaimed, "Look, he entered the 39th floor." In less than 10 minutes, someone was shocked again. First, he is first again. Look, he's on the 41st floor. Fuck, he's on the 49th floor? Is he crazy? He's on the 54th floor. The outside world went crazy. Han Fei strolled leisurely in the demon realm as if he were shopping. He was too proficient in attracting ownerless souls with the soul-splitting technique. As for copying those words, even though it was a little shaky, it would only take 100 breaths for him to successfully copy them. It was not difficult at all. Seeing the teleportation array on the 55th floor open, Han Fei scratched his head. I wonder what I will face on this floor. He raised his foot and stepped in. Hulan, in an instant, Han Fei guarded his soul tightly, and a large number of strange sounds accompanied by spiritual energy attacks tried to attack his mind. He didn't even need to look to know that it was a tsunami jellyfish. When he left the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei sealed this thing in the blood-drinking knife. It was invincible. The knife whistled out, which was simply the best way to seal a creature. At this moment, what Han Fei saw was not one or two tsunami jellyfish, but a group of tsunami jellyfish. Han Fei only felt that his ears were buzzing. However, it was better than last time because he was prepared and didn't bleed. Soul-splitting technique. Blue flames floated out one after another, and the possession battle began again. Puff! After 10 minutes, Han Fei vomited the first mouthful of blood. However, the corners of his mouth were cracked, and he was smiling. He had passed this level. Half an hour later, Han Fei's soul returned, and he felt extremely full. From the moment he entered the ancient 72-floor demon realm to now, his soul had been strengthened by at least 30%. As Han Fei expected. Starting from the 56th floor, he began to copy again. This time, it was much more difficult to copy. Han Fei frowned slightly. Fortunately, it's acceptable. It's not a big problem. There were exclamations outside, but Han Fei couldn't hear them. He was very excited at the moment. Going down floor by floor, there were almost no obstacles. When Han Fei walked to the 71st floor, the copy had become very difficult. However, it only took Han Fei half an hour to pass the level. Outside, Yu-Ji and the other peerless heavenly talents were all shocked. Yu-Ji murmured, "Is it the 71st floor? Can he go up to the 72nd floor?" Yu-Yun and the others were dumbfounded. No. The 72nd floor belongs to the half-mermaids, not the Azure Sea Blue Demons. Qixue Huan and the other super-strong masters were also breathing heavily at this moment. On the side, Yu Hanjia looked calm. The 72nd floor is a floor that no one can go up to. No one has entered it since ancient times. Qixue Huan nodded. Not necessarily. When a real heavenly talent is born, nothing is impossible. Just when everyone was waiting anxiously, a terrifying pressure descended. Qixue Huan and the others hurriedly put their hands on their chests and bowed their heads to greet it. Lord Feather. In their field of vision, a person appeared. Yes, if Han Fei were here, he would definitely cry out in shock. This was a person, a strong master in the appearance of a human. Blue Feather stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the demon steel, and shook his head slightly, indicating that no one should pay attention to him. At the moment he arrived, suddenly, Han Fei's name appeared on the 72nd floor. Wow! The crowd was excited, and someone exclaimed, "Yes, the 72nd floor of the demon realm has been broken? Sea King, from today on, I'm afraid no one can underestimate you, Fei. A real peerless heavenly talent. Since the establishment of the 10,000 Demon Valley, he is the most heavenly talent." The corners of Blue Feather's mouth curled up. Finally, can someone go in? Qixue Huan was inexplicably excited. In the entire 10,000 Demon Valley, he and Yu Fei would be the closest in the future. Neither of them was a half-mermaid, which laid the foundation of their relationship. Qixue Huan even wondered if he should cancel the 3 agreements with Han Fei. How could such a person be restrained? If he could establish a friendship with Han Fei now, it would definitely benefit him in the future. Qixue Huan even thought that this was not Yu Fei's chance, but his. However, when Han Fei stepped onto the 72nd floor, a voice transmission echoed in his ears. "You're finally here." Han Fei was surprised. Who are you? The owner of the voice didn't answer. However, a phantom condensed in the water. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Third night? Asking for votes. Today, Kafka. Part of the reason is that the third night. Tomorrow, the fourth night. Don't panic. The story will be told slowly. I'm helping the protagonist accumulate strength to plan for great things. End of this chapter. Chapter 768. Han Fei's eyes were full of shock. It was not because of what the man said, but because the guy who appeared in front of him was a human being. It didn't have a tail, and it didn't have a mouth full of steel teeth. Instead, it looked like a pure human. This person had the appearance of a young man. His facial features were regular, and there was a heroic spirit between his brows. He also had the aura of a scholar. Moreover, the clothes he was wearing were not battle robes, but a set of muslin clothes. He reminded Han Fei of a person that Han Fei had almost forgotten, Li Huang from the Undersea City. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Are you a wisp of soul or a drop of essence blood? The man asked. Sure enough, aren't you surprised that I'm not of the same race as you? Han Fei pretended to be stunned. Human. The man laughed and said, Aren't you human? Han Fei thought quickly, do I look like a human being? The man laughed. The strong sea demons can basically transform into human beings. Of course, there were also people who could transform into sea demons. Don't you agree? Han Fei raised his eyebrows. I don't know what you are talking about. The man shook his head slightly. Don't hide it. Although it's much harder for a human to transform into a sea demon than a sea demon to transform into a human. However, it was not impossible. If you weren't a human, you wouldn't be able to enter the 72nd floor. If you weren't human, how could you have barged in so easily? Do you really think that your innate talent is boundless? When Han Fei was about to speak, the man said, You must not know that the so-called 72-floor demon realm does not refer to the 71st floor below. They were all used to help others cultivate. But, because of this, the ancient 72-floor demon realm is called the ancient 72-floor demon realm. Han Fei took a breath. Then, what's different about the 72nd floor? The man turned into a human and walked casually, looking Han Fei up and down. Can you still change back? If you have cultivated the demonification technique and don't have a way to reverse it, you shouldn't be able to enter. But now that you're in the form of a siren, you can probably change back, right? Han Fei was surprised. How are you so sure that I'm a human being? The man nodded. Han Fei asked again, but if you are a human, why isn't the ancient 72-floor demon realm built on human territory? What if it's in the territory of the sea demons? The man smiled faintly and said, because of the vicissitudes of life, the human territory was submerged, and the ancient 72-floor demon realm was also submerged. Originally, this place was full of spirit chi, and there was no demonic chi. But later, this place was filled with demonic aura, and it became a sacred cultivation ground for sea demons. Han Fei was thinking calmly. He felt that he had been cheated too many times. For example, the people in the snow god's palace were also full of nice words at first, but they turned out to be a bunch of liars. What if he returned to his human form and this person said, Okay, so you really are a human? What could he do when faced with such words? Seeing that Han Fei was thinking, the man said lightly, Did you see the demon steel below when you came in? Han Fei nodded. I did. The man smiled warmly and said, Originally, there was no tablet here. After I died, I erected this monument to protect the 72nd floor. Han Fei frowned. Protect what? The man put his hands behind his back and raised his head slightly. I see. This place is called the ancient 72-floor demon realm, a sacred cultivation ground for our human race. As long as you are talented and enter the 72nd floor, you can learn the way to enter the Soul Sea. Do you know the Soul Sea? Han Fei was shocked. Soul Sea? He really wanted to know the answer to this question. The Soul Sea was a good place. He had entered it by accident. Then he possessed Little Black and ate crazily. his level soared rapidly, and it was simply the best place for spiritual beasts to upgrade. Han Fei lowered his head, and his eyes were full of horror. No one had ever mentioned the word Soul Sea to him. But today, at the top of the ancient 72-floor demon realm in the 10,000 Demon Valley, someone mentioned it. The man smiled gently. You know it? It's incredible. It turns out that after the Age of Chaos, there are still people who know about the Soul Sea. Han Fei looked up. I once heard about the Soul Sea in a secret realm called the Snow God's Palace. However, I only know this name. It seems to be a place where spiritual beasts live. The man looked at Han Fei's eyes, and after a long time, he smiled and said, It seems to be a good excuse. You have a strong demonic aura, so you have to change it back to normal in order to enter the Soul Sea. You just need to know that I don't have to lie to you. Otherwise, why haven't I let a sea demon come up since ancient times? Han Fei was silent, thinking quickly. After thinking for a long time, he finally couldn't think of any way to verify the identity of the other party. Suddenly, he heard the man say, You don't believe me, so you want to verify whether I am a human or not? Han Fei was stunned. How did he know what he was thinking? The man smiled gently. Follow me. The two of them walked through a vast cave. Han Fei found that this cave was much larger than he had imagined. Even the 71 floors below were not as vast as this one. The man took Han Fei to a circle of murals and chuckled. Look, this is the scene of the ancient 72-floor demon realm being submerged. Look at this person, it's me. Following the direction of the man's finger, Han Fei saw a cylindrical giant city in the mural. 10,000 Demon Tower? As soon as Han Fei said this name, his eyes suddenly became blurred. His consciousness seemed to be sucked into the mural. The next second, he entered an illusory world. This was a very obvious illusory world. Han Fei was like a bystander, standing high in the sky. At that time, the 10,000 Demon Tower was indeed built on a piece of land. Whoop! Several figures passed through the sky, but unfortunately, there was no sound. Not far away, about 20 kilometers or so, there was the coastline. A huge octopus, larger than the sea monster he had imagined, larger than the cloud whale he had seen. At this moment, it was swinging its huge tentacles and slapping them. Above the sky, there was a giant void handprint, slapping from the sky to the ground. Perhaps because the speed was too fast, the big handprint ignited heavy flames in midair and bathed in the fire. In the cylindrical city not far away, thousands of people spread their wings, like big birds flying across the sky, and quickly rushed towards the coastline. Han Fei was shocked. They were all hidden fishers. Are they so worthless? These hidden fishers were like immortals, whizzing past in front of Han Fei. Han Fei could even see that many armorous armor boxes had been opened, with streams of light spurting out. The hidden fishers rushed into the deep sea and disappeared. Suddenly, Han Fei was attracted by the crimson above his head. He couldn't help but be shocked. Who was fighting in the sky? Crimson light illuminated the entire sky. Then Han Fei saw a human being and a monster of unknown species covered in scales with a long tail were fighting fiercely. The two of them punched each other hard. Every time they punched, the white clouds rolled, and the airwaves spread for thousands of meters without dissipating. When Han Fei saw the man's face, he was surprised to find that this person was the one he had just seen. This person was fighting fiercely, and his fist mark was as bright as the sun, as if he had blasted out a scorching sun, illuminating the sky. Just when the two of them were fighting in front of him, the man's fist mark, like a spurting fire dragon, punched through 100 kilometers and blasted the monster into the deep sea. Then, a huge octopus tentacle was pulled out of the void. It was grabbed by him with both hands, and with a pull, the giant octopus that seemed to be tens of thousands of meters tall was pulled out of the sea. Then, a giant 1,000 meters tall blasted it with his fist mark. However, the octopus was too huge, and the 1,000-meter-tall giant was no match for it. Just when he bombarded the octopus, above the sky, a starlight flickered and fell from the sky. How could Han Fei see this level of attack clearly? In an instant, a harpoon and this person's fist mark collided. However, this person didn't block it. His fist was shattered, and a big hole was pierced through his chest. This person finally stopped using his fist, but pulled out his sword. The sword swung like a rainbow, scattering the clouds for dozens of kilometers, and swept upward. However, the harpoon was like a bright sun, shattering the sword shadow with a single strike, and the floating waves dispersed the clouds for hundreds of kilometers. Then, a big hand came out of nowhere, holding the harpoon, and the other hand dragged this person, flying towards the cultivation canyon, which was the current ancient 72-floor demon realm. In Han Fei's eyes, the last thing left was a delicate and very beautiful woman. The woman was wearing a thin gauze dress. Wait, that was not a gauze dress, but fins like a holy gauze dress? Han Fei immediately looked at the woman's legs. Yes, she had a pair of legs and feet, and they were very beautiful. She didn't wear shoes, and her little feet were very white and tender. Han Fei was surprised. A mermaid? The picture suddenly disappeared, and this magnificent picture, like a 5D movie, suddenly disappeared. Han Fei's mind returned. Han Fei turned his head in astonishment and looked at the person. You? The person nodded. Yes, there are royal families among the sea demons. The real sea demon powerhouses are too powerful, and even I can't resist them. Han Fei took a deep breath. Then the woman just now, has she turned into a human form? The person nodded. Of course, and she is very beautiful. To be precise, none of the sea demon royal families are ugly. Even those ordinary clam girls are so beautiful that it's tempting. Han Fei took a deep breath. Then where does she live? The person was taken aback, and there was a trace of astonishment on his gentle face. No, it's been so many years. How would I know where she lives? Young man, there are still many beautiful women. Even if you find her, she is too old. Maybe she has already become a pile of bones. Han Fei rolled his eyes. No, I mean, where is this race? Now, this place is full of inferior manfish, red demons, half-mermaids. There have never been such beautiful women here. The person chuckled. Nonsense, they live on the other side of the infinite ocean. Of course you can't see them. It's impossible for you, a peak-level hanging fisher, to cross the infinite ocean. Han Fei asked, what strength do I have to cross the infinite ocean? The person looked at Han Fei thoughtfully. Have you ever thought about the infinite ocean? You haven't fallen in love with a mermaid royal family, have you? Han Fei was about to explain when he heard the person say, actually, it's nothing. In history, there was a period of time when the human race and the sea demons were quite harmonious. They traded goods with each other, and there were many marriages. Han Fei was shocked. What? There's such a situation? The person smiled and said, of course. In the end of cultivation, is race important? I once read an ancient book, which said that a guy married an octopus as his wife. I heard that his wife was very smart. She changed her personality every day, and he fell in love with a different personality every day. Tiske, I really don't know how he could stand it. Han Fei, the person said, okay, let's not talk about this. My time is limited. Can you turn back into a human first? First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 769. In this case, this person was so sure that he was a human. What could he do? Besides, if this person wanted to attack him, he wouldn't be able to escape. Did he want to possess him? It was impossible that the demon purification pot could kill him. In this case, Han Fei's expression changed for a while, and in the end, he chose to change back to his human form. This person saw Han Fei suddenly lying on the ground. Then his muscles bulged, his meridians protruded, and his face was hideous and painful. Tisk, it's really a transformation technique, but it's still so painful. I don't know where you've gotten this kind of opportunity. This kind of secret technique is rare in the world. If it were in peacetime, it would be useless. But now, it's very useful. Han Fei was hideous and couldn't speak. Every time he transformed, he had to experience unbearable pain. It was truly the kind where one's bones were ground to dust. The pain was deep in one's bones. Han Fei asked, Can you turn around? This person sneered. Ha, you're quite proud. Having said that, this person turned around in the end and didn't intend to make a move. Seeing this scene, Han Fei was really relieved. Otherwise, if the other party attacked, this would be the best opportunity. After a while, Han Fei's bones were elongating, his skin and flesh were changing, and his skull was also changing shape. However, his human appearance reappeared, but he was not wearing clothes. Well, a robe was put on his body, and Han Fei's chest heaved up and down, his face full of relief. Han Fei calmed down. Senior, what's your name? This person had already turned his head and seemed to be recalling me. This is something that happened a long time ago. My name is Shu Shan, the mountain that moves mountains. Han Fei had returned to normal. He twisted his body a little and found that it was better to be a human. No matter how he moved, he felt very comfortable. Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief. Senior Shu, I just saw that you were pierced and seriously injured? And what does the Royal Mermaid have to do with the fall of this place? Shu Shan said lightly, when you reach the strength of a law enforcer or above, you will find that it's not easy to die. Of course, don't court death. After all, people will really die. As for the Royal Mermaid, Shu Shan seemed to be lost in memories again. After a long time, he slowly said, Actually, the sea demons you see now are all inferior species, including those half-mermaids. This ocean was vast and boundless. Just the boundless sea domain alone was hundreds of millions of miles wide. All you need to know is that there are countless living races in this world, and the mermaid race is only one of the top races. The merfolk royal family is even more superior than this race. Han Fei was shocked. Many races? Shu Shan squinted at Han Fei. I won't tell you so much now, or it will only affect your belief. Depending on the level one reached, one would have to meet certain people. The sea region is vast and boundless. Even if I tell you now, it's useless. Han Fei fell silent. Wasn't Xia Xiaochan a mermaid royalty? After all, she was the so-called Pearl Princess. She couldn't possibly be a commoner. However, there seemed to be something wrong with Xia Xiaochan's identity, and it didn't seem safe. However, with his current strength and capital, even if he sacrificed the entire Thug Academy, it would be useless. With Chun Huangyan's strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to move the Sea Demon Mountain. Who on the Scattered Stars Island could do that? Shu Shan ignored Han Fei's silence and said quickly, Remember the Soul Sea secret. I don't have much time. I can't stay here for long. After you've memorized it, take me out. I don't know how many years I haven't been out. Han Fei asked in surprise, The Soul Sea secret. Shu Shan chuckled. Of course. Why else do you think I asked you to turn back into a human? It seems that sea demons can't enter the Soul Sea. I don't know, but the secret left by the ancient human experts in the 72-floor soul realm can't be used by sea demons. If they can't use it, they can't go up to the 72nd floor. Han Fei hurriedly followed Shu Shan to a stone tablet. He was so excited that he couldn't help but ask, Can the Soul Sea secret really enter the Soul Sea? Shu Shan nodded. What else do you think? In ancient times, human beings were able to stand on the top of the world because of the Soul Sea secret technique. However, not everybody can enter it. That's why the 72-floor soul realm was created. If you can't reach this place, you can't practice the Soul Sea secret technique. So, do you know how hard it is for me to wait? Nowadays, human beings are useless. They can't even enter this small place. I'm so worried. Han Fei thought to himself, how can you blame human beings? Look, human beings don't even have a foothold in the world now. They've already flown to the sky. How can they establish a territory in the sea? Like the previous words, there were about 8 lines of words engraved on this last wall. Anyway, Han Fei didn't know them, so he just memorized them. Releasing his spiritual force, Han Fei began to copy the first line without saying a word. However, this time, Han Fei's expression was extremely solemn. This kind of blocking force was more than 3 times that of the previous floor. Seeing that Han Fei was forced to copy, Shu Shan's expression was serious. Don't force it. Gather your spiritual force between your eyebrows and drive it with your soul. Han Fei glanced at him. It's easy for you to say that. I've already done enough, okay? However, Han Fei still did as Shu Shan said and felt that his speed was 20% faster. 100 minutes. Half an hour. Half an hour. When the last line of words and the last character were copied by Han Fei, he was stunned. Suddenly, there seemed to be countless mysterious symbols emerging in Han Fei's mind. Immediately afterward, the symbols that he had copied before reappeared in his mind. Then, they interweaved and changed with each other, and finally turned into a circular pattern, like an array. Wow! It turns out that these are not words. Han Fei was speechless. No wonder he couldn't understand it. It turned out that those so-called words were actually lines, but they were twisted into the shape of words. And the order was all messed up. Only when the complete lines were obtained would this picture be formed. After the picture appeared, before Han Fei could check the data of the demon purification pot, he felt his head shake and his consciousness was instantly pulled out. When Han Fei opened his eyes again, he found that the world in his eyes had changed. This was the world with fish eyes, and his eyes were like fucking distorted magnifying glasses. Han Fei turned his head and looked to the side, only to see that Little White was swimming beside him, and he had once again possessed Little Black's body. Clatter! In a dazzling flash, a silver-scaled fish swam past him. The fish scales were shining, and Han Fei was tempted by it. In his eyes, information emerged. Name: silver-scaled fish, primitive spiritual beast. Introduction: a kind of silver-armored fish, with strong defensive ability. The silver-scaled fish is ferocious and has an amazing bite force. There are 3 silver wheels on its tail. Its power is comparable to that of a high-quality spiritual weapon. Level 45 quality rare contains soul power greater than 1,559 points. The silver-scaled fish slapped its tail, and a ripple was thrown on him. It was gentle and not an attack. Han Fei was overjoyed. Could he quickly improve the strength of Little Black and Little White? However, suddenly, Han Fei found a small problem. He didn't have the desire for blood as when he first came here. He seemed to be able to completely resist Little Black's desire. No, Little Black, how can you not have desire? Have you drunk too much spirit awakening fluid recently? Then Han Fei rushed up and bit the belly of the silver-scaled fish. It's not like I haven't eaten it before. I've eaten it twice. It's quite delicious to eat fish as a fish. How could the silver-scaled fish expect such a change? It was bitten through and immediately began to struggle violently. However, what was the use of this? Han Fei had already started eating. The big mouth gnawed all the way, and in the end, even the bones of the silver-scaled fish were gone. When Han Fei finished eating, he found that there were very few primitive spiritual beasts that he could see. Han Fei was stunned. Was he too ferocious just like last time? Did he scare away all the other primitive spiritual beasts? However, he didn't care about this. He saw a crab disguised as a stone, rushed over without hesitation, and bit through the crab's shell. After a while, it seemed that Han Fei's gluttony also aroused Little Black's fierceness. Han Fei rushed all the way with Little White, gnawing all the way. Swish! This was the 3rd time Han Fei saw Little White burst out with light. He had leveled up 3 times in a row. This feeling was very good, very good. Just when Han Fei wanted to continue gnawing, suddenly, he felt a sense of crisis. When this crisis came, suddenly his consciousness became blurred. When he came back to his senses, he had already appeared in reality. Fuck, why is it gone? Han Fei was dumbfounded. I was having a good time, but I suddenly came back. What does this mean? Han Fei tilted his head, only to see Shu Shan looking at him strangely. What did you do in the Soul Sea? You're quite fierce. You didn't fight with primitive spiritual beasts as soon as you went in, did you? Second update. Please vote. End of this chapter. Chapter 770. Han Fei didn't like this feeling of going in and coming out inexplicably at all. However, in his soul sea, where did that sense of danger come from? Would Little Black and Little White be okay? Han Fei immediately asked, Senior, do you think the primitive spiritual beasts in the soul sea will attack each other? Shu Shan looked at Han Fei as if looking at an idiot. Isn't that obvious? Spiritual beasts are also living creatures. Although I don't know where they come from, they will also fight. Many primitive spiritual beasts are very fierce. However, under normal circumstances, spiritual beasts that have signed a contract with human beings will not fight. Because spiritual beasts can absorb nourishment from the soul sea and don't need to fight. Han Fei asked, when will they fight? Shu Shan glanced at Han Fei weirdly. It seems that you've just been through a battle. Usually, this will happen when the soul power of the spiritual beast is weak or when it is provoked. This is a mystery and I can't answer you. Han Fei wondered, anyway, I have never heard of anyone's spiritual beast dying inexplicably. I think there must be other rules in this. Senior, when can I go in again? Let's go out first. When Han Fei looked again, he found that the twisted lines on the wall were missing 3 lines. Han Fei asked again, Senior, where did these words go? Shu Shan said anxiously, of course they were erased. We can't leave the things of our human race to sea demons, right? The seal of the 72-floor soul realm has been broken. In the future, sea demons will definitely come in. Don't worry about the soul sea for now. Come here, I left a lot of things. You can put them away first. As soon as Han Fei heard this, his eyes lit up. This was a super strong master. The things left behind by him must be extraordinary. Shu Shan was speechless when he saw Han Fei's eyes. Why are your eyes so bright? That's my stuff. I just want you to keep it for me. Han Fei? Walking to the side, Han Fei saw a corpse, surrounded by wine jars. He looked like a drunkard who drank himself to death. Beside him, a jasper-like shell fell to the ground. There were gloves, rings, and bracelets hanging on the man's arm. Sun Moon Shell? Han Fei was surprised. This was good stuff. He had only seen it once on the dragon boat. After that, he had never seen it again. Shu Shan said, I put it with you temporarily. Leave the bracelets and put the rest away. Han Fei's eyes glowed. It was obviously a good thing. He really wanted to take it away. However, Shu Shan didn't look like a bad person. This Shu Shan didn't look like a bad guy. Han Fei was surprised. Senior, once I go out, I'll be interrogated. Senior, you think I can take these away? If my guess is right, you will, and I have a small world. Just now, you have the bracelets. Put the bracelet on your hand and put everything else into your little world. It's not that I'm stingy, I'll give this ring to you. What's this ring? Fate this ling divine ling out. King, I have you, and in an E and is, from a C to be a yang, the supreme grade divine weapon is yours. Hearing that it was an ultra-quality divine weapon, Han Fei immediately picked up the ring. Are you kidding me? How can I just throw away an ultra-quality divine weapon so casually? After a while, after putting away the Sun Moon Shell, the glove, and the ring, Shu Shan said, okay, put on the bracelet and quickly change back. Let's go out. As he spoke, Shu Shan entered the bracelet like a wisp of green smoke. Han Fei was lost for words. Wait, I've just changed back? A voice came from the bracelet. Nonsense, the seal of the 72-floor spirit realm has been broken. What are you still doing here? Hurry up and take me out. I've been here for countless years. I've had enough. Han Fei thought for a moment. No, Senior, if I put on a bracelet now, someone will definitely notice it. Can't you enter the sea-swallowing seashell? The bracelet said, no sea-swallowing seashell or sun moon shell can absorb my universe bracelet. Don't worry, they won't be able to find me. I can turn invisible. As soon as Han Fei grabbed the interspatial bracelet, the bracelet in his hand disappeared without a trace. He couldn't see it at all. Even though he was still holding it in his hand, his eyes could no longer see. Han Fei observed with the eyes of true vision, but there was no trace of it. Han Fei thought for a while, put the interspatial bracelet on his hand, and then held his breath. Then, he convulsed again and fell to the ground. In the outside world, countless people were waiting. Han Fei was already on the 72nd floor. As long as he came out of the 72nd floor, everyone would know what was on the 72nd floor. This was also the reason why Blue Feather and the others came here. Otherwise, a place like the 72th-floor spirit realm, where only demonic creatures below level 50 could enter, wouldn't attract the attention of these big shots. Someone was discussing, do you think Yu Fei will be directly accepted as a disciple by Lord Blue Feather when he comes out? Someone was thinking, it's possible. However, I haven't heard that Lord Blue Feather has the habit of accepting disciples. A heavenly talent guessed, if he comes out of the 72nd floor, he will definitely bring out the secret of the 72nd floor. Maybe we will also have a chance to get it. Someone nodded. Yes, no matter what he gets, it will eventually be taken back by the 10,000 Demon Tower. A heavenly talent was silent. This person is too high profile. In human terms, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. In fact, I don't think Yu Fei will have a particularly good end. Someone agreed. If Yu Fei gets out of control, he may also be killed. However, the big shots actually don't need to kill him. Isn't it better to keep this kind of person? More people sighed. They didn't expect that one day, an azure sea blue demon would go from the first floor to the 72nd floor in a row, which really subverted their imagination. Those ordinary half-mermaids only felt that Yu Fei was going to rise. Just when everyone was talking about it, they saw a figure walking out of the dark cave. That figure seemed to have walked out of an endless abyss, like a king returning from a battle. Covered in darkness, he walked with loneliness. However, Han Fei was holding a strange jar in his hand. Oh! What? Ow! The ordinary half-mermaids screamed, one after another like a tide. But Han Fei was unmoved. He immediately saw Yu Ji standing next to the demon steel. However, even if Han Fei saw Yu Ji, he didn't respond. This time, he had too many things to digest in the ancient 72-floor demon realm. The skyrocketing soul power, the dismantled demonic energy, and the soul sea secret technique. He had too many questions waiting to be asked by Shu Shan. He had to hurry up and settle the matter at hand. If he guessed right, he would definitely be interrogated, but he had already figured out a way to deal with it. In his mind, Shu Shan's voice sounded, sure enough, they are all inferior sea demons. They're also big demons. Forget it, I'm still a wisp of soul. In case I'm discovered, I'll hide first. Han Fei walked all the way down without speaking. He walked all the way to Yu Ji and glanced at the demon steel. At this glance, he was speechless. Why am I always the first? Han Fei remembered Shu Shan's words. This ancient 72-floor demon realm was originally reserved for humans. Now, he believed it. He didn't think it was very difficult. It might have something to do with his luck, but anyway, it wasn't that difficult. Han Fei even felt that if someone like Zhang Xuanyu encountered this ancient 72-floor demon realm, he might also be able to make it. However, Han Fei's expression didn't change at all. You're back? Yu Ji looked at Han Fei with a complicated expression. She couldn't have expected that she had only been away for a few days, which was only about half a month, but Han Fei had done such an amazing thing in the 10,000 Demon Valley. Before Han Fei spoke, he felt a pressure coming, and a voice sounded, "Everyone, disperse and continue to cultivate." Everyone was shocked. It was Lord Blue Feather. Sure enough, only a genius like Yu Fei was worthy of Lord Blue Feather's attention. Even those half-mermaid heavenly talents had retreated, not daring to stay any longer. Yu Ji took a deep look at Han Fei and also retreated. After a few minutes, there was no one here, leaving only Han Fei standing here alone. A glowing figure descended from the sky. That person looked completely human, but his appearance was quite rough, and his face was covered with strange lines, like tattoos. In his hand, he was holding an incomparably bright golden harpoon. At this time, these were all emitting dazzling light. He was wearing a shiny golden battle suit, which was also dazzling. Han Fei cursed in his heart. Is this Blue Feather? What the fuck? Behind Blue Feather, there were 5 people, including Qishue Huan. But there was no emotion on his face, nor did he make eye contact with Han Fei. Blue Feather's pupils were pure white. He looked at Han Fei for a while and then smiled slightly. Legendary? Han Fei nodded stiffly, although he seemed to be shrouded by invisible pressure. Blue Feather stared at Han Fei. How do you feel after entering the ancient 72-floor demon realm? Han Fei knew that in the face of such a strong master, he couldn't neglect him. This wasn't something that could be brushed off with just a few lies. So Han Fei raised his head and looked at Blue Feather. The first 36 floors temper the body, but mainly guide the challenger to disassemble the demonic energy. I tried my best, but I could only disassemble it to half the size of the previous one. However, the effect is amazing. My strength soars without changing my realm. Seeing Blue Feather's indifferent expression, Han Fei continued. The last 36 floors temper the spirit and guide the challenger to remember strange characters. Han Fei paused and continued. On all the other floors, there is only 1 line of text. However, on the 72nd floor, there are 5 lines of text. In addition, on the 72nd floor, there is a human skeleton? Just like you, my lord? Han Fei's eyes flickered and he seemed to be curious about Blue Feather. Sure enough, Blue Feather's eyes flashed. This is also a kind of transformation technique. That skeleton is actually an ancestor of our sea demon clan. Han Fei was silent for a while. Do humans also look like this? Blue Feather didn't answer. Continue. Han Fei continued to answer. That person was surrounded by this kind of jars. With that, Han Fei picked up the jar in his hand. Blue Feather said, "This thing has no value. It's just an ordinary wine jar, a jar that holds some kind of magical liquid." Seeing that Blue Feather was still looking at him, Han Fei said, "The last 5 lines are extremely difficult. But like before, I can't understand them. I guess this should be a cultivation technique or a combat skill." Qishue Huan said at this time, "Write these words down." Han Fei nodded, raised his hand, used his finger as a pen, and drew in the air with demonic energy as ink. After a while, all the 5 lines were written down, without a single word missing. Since Shu Shan erased 3 lines, it meant that he knew that if the 3 lines were erased, the sea demons would never know the true meaning. Qishue Huan nodded. "I got it. Go on." Han Fei thought for a while. There are no treasures on the 72nd floor, but the rock walls are engraved with murals. Looking at the murals, I witnessed a war. Suddenly, Blue Feather's eyes lit up. "Tell me, the 3rd chapter? Please vote." End of this chapter. Chapter 771. Facing Blue Feather's eyes, Han Fei was not used to it as if this person could see through him. Han Fei didn't hide anything and told him what he had seen. The 10,000 Demon Valley used to float on the sea. Humans have occupied this place, and the ancient 72-floor demon realm shouldn't be ours. In that battle, there were strange beasts flying across the sky, big hands covering the sky, and raging waves rolling more than 1,000 feet. I saw someone being pierced by a beautiful woman in a colorful gauze dress with bare feet. His weapon was broken, and his battle suit exploded. Han Fei seemed to be describing an epic, and Qishue Huan and the others' breathing became rapid. They hadn't entered the 72nd floor, so no matter how talented they were, they didn't know. Now Han Fei said whatever he said. "Go in yourself if you have the ability. Anyway, even if you go in, the picture you see is exactly the same as what I saw." But when Blue Feather bragged that Shu Shan was their ancestor, Han Fei laughed. He thought to himself, "Your ancestor is in my hands now. Next time you brag, you'd better prepare a good draft." Han Fei wasn't lying. Therefore, when he spoke of it, he was clear and logical and described it vividly. Even Blue Feather could only nod in affirmation. Besides, others might not know so well, but Blue Feather knew that the 10,000 Demon Valley was indeed the territory of humans. Including the ancient 72-floor demon realm, it was also the territory of humans. However, he felt that since the sea demons moved in, it belonged to the sea demons. Besides, The ancient 72-floor demon realm had been a cultivation holy land for ordinary half-mermaids and half-mermaids since ancient times. There were only advantages and no disadvantages there, which was worth affirming. Blue Feather looked at Han Fei slightly. Not bad. You live on the top floor of the 10,000 Demon Tower. When Qixue Huan discussed with Han Fei before, he didn't intend to let Han Fei live in the 10,000 Demon Tower. In Qixue Huan's view, no matter how talented Han Fei was, he had to leave. Now, if he made some opportunities, there might be unexpected gains in the future. But Qixue Huan didn't know that Han Fei's talent was so high that it was shocking. The first time he came to the Cultivation Canyon, he passed the ancient 72-floor demon realm. There had never been such a genius in history. Qixue Huan said to Han Fei, "Go back to the weapon shop first. Someone will take you to the 10,000 Demon Tower." Han Fei nodded and turned to leave. After Han Fei walked away, someone said, "Master, this boy is extremely talented, but his heart is not in the 10,000 Demon Valley. Are we going to kill him or keep him alive?" Qixue Huan glanced at that person. "Hi Xinlan, it's rare for the sea demons to have a peerless genius, but all you want to do is kill him? If so, when could the 10,000 Demon Valley conquer the Scattered Stars Island?" People like you, Fei, might not be able to make much progress in the short term. But think about it. If you leave the Myriad Demon Valley in the future and become a real expert, do you think it will be good for the Myriad Demon Valley in the future? Yu Beichen echoed, "There's really no need to kill him. After all, he's one of us sea demons, and he came from our Myriad Demon Valley. Why kill him?" Blue Feather pondered for a moment. "Qixue Huan, didn't you say that he promised a few things?" "Yes, my lord." Blue Feather said indifferently, "The third thing is to let him go to the Scattered Stars Island. What do you think?" As soon as Blue Feather said this, everyone behind him trembled. If a person like Yu Fei transformed into a human and sneaked into the Scattered Stars Island, he would definitely become a core member. He could even live in the Scattered Stars first unit, which would play a big role. Qixue Huan grinned. "My lord, good plan." Han Fei didn't know that Blue Feather would make such a decision. If he knew, he would probably laugh out loud. "I'm a fucking human. You want me to pretend to be a human? It's funny no matter how you think about it." At this moment, Han Fei was asking Shu Shan a lot of questions. Han Fei said, "It seems that they have passed this test. Will they break into the 72nd floor?" Shu Shan responded, "It's very difficult. It's just that the seal of the 72nd floor has been broken. Not everyone can climb to the 72nd floor. There have only been a few dozen sea demons who want to climb to the top for countless years. It's not a big deal." Han Fei asked, "Senior, I have a question. According to the cultivation method of the 72-floor soul realm, is there a limit to disassembling spiritual energy? I feel that my strength has doubled." Shu Shan sneered. "Do you have spirit awakening fluid? I'm too hungry and my spirit is floating. Can you think of a way to get me some?" Han Fei was surprised. "Spirit awakening fluid is very difficult to get. I only have a few hundred kilograms on me." Shu Shan said, "Give me a few hundred kilograms first. I need to stabilize my soul." Han Fei thought to himself, "I still have a lot of questions." Anyway, the spirit awakening fluid was of no help to him, so it didn't matter if he gave it to him. Immediately, Han Fei gave him 462 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid. This showed that he really didn't have a few kilograms, which meant that he had given it all to Han Fei. More than 400 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid was swallowed by the invisible universe bracelet. After about 10 minutes, Shu Shan sighed. "It's a little too little. Do you have any more?" Han Fei smiled bitterly. "Senior, do you think spirit awakening fluid is cabbage? You don't know the current situation of human beings. Humans all live in the sky and only have palm-sized territories in the sea." Shu Shan said in surprise, "Live in the sky? The immortal palace? How can you live in the immortal palace?" Han Fei suddenly asked, "Senior, where is the immortal palace?" Shu Shan said, "That's a place where strong people gather. It's not easy to go. Huh, if you don't live in the immortal palace, where do you live? Han Fei said, you live on the floating island, floating in the sky with the power of floating stones and arrays. Shu Shan nodded. No wonder. You're talking about that kind of floating stone. I didn't expect it to have such a use. After changing the topic, Shu Shan replied, this method of disassembling spiritual qi has been around since ancient times. The improvement of one's realm can lead to the improvement of the efficiency of the use of spiritual energy. Therefore, people speculated that if a drop of spiritual energy is split into 2 drops, will there be a qualitative improvement? Han Fei wondered, what I haven't figured out is why the power of a drop of spiritual energy doubled when it is split into 2 drops? Shu Shan smiled and said, it can't be doubled. It's still too early to know. The reason why the power is almost the same when it is split into 2 drops is that people don't give full play to the energy in every bit of spiritual energy. After the separation of spiritual energy, it can only be said that your spiritual energy control efficiency has reached 50%. Correspondingly, your combat power has been greatly improved. However, your strength has not doubled. When you have a chance to fight with all your strength, you'll know. Han Fei was surprised. Only so little control? What will happen if I can control it 100%? Shu Shan snorted. What are you thinking? The separation of spiritual energy becomes more and more difficult. The 72-floor soul realm is just the foundation. Many people can't even reach 50% control, let alone complete control. This is a painstaking effort, which requires extremely high soul power and spiritual power. This is why the 72-floor soul realm is called the soul realm. Otherwise, it should be called the spiritual realm. Han Fei thought, it turns out that the soul and spiritual power also involve the degree of control of spiritual energy. Han Fei asked, Senior, then what is considered complete control? After completely mastering it, what will the state of spiritual energy look like? Shu Shan was silent for a long time before he slowly said, do you know how to fold paper? In terms of the efficiency of the use of spiritual energy, it's like you want to fold a piece of paper infinitely. How many times can you fold it? In terms of the amount of spiritual energy, it's equivalent to splitting a drop of water into 2 drops, and 2 drops into 4 drops. It will be split endlessly and eventually become smaller and smaller. The degree of control of spiritual energy is getting higher and higher, but the difficulty of separation is also getting higher and higher. Therefore, it's almost impossible to completely master it. When Han Fei thought about it, he almost couldn't believe it. Wasn't it too fucking difficult? To be able to fold a piece of paper 7 times was already heaven-defying. Han Fei didn't even dare to think about it. It was really difficult to use this as an analogy. However, Han Fei suddenly said, no. Senior, why do I have to fold so many times? According to what you said, if I fold it 3 more times, my control will exceed 90%, right? No, if I fold it 2 more times, it will be close to 90%. At that time, everyone will basically be in the same position. Isn't it the same? Don't laugh at me, no one is any better than the other. Shu Shan was stunned by Han Fei's words and pondered for a while. Then my description may not be right. I have to describe it to you with realms. Under normal circumstances, if you haven't reached the explorer level, you may not even be able to fold it twice. Han Fei said, Senior, it's boring to talk about realms with me. Explorer, believe it or not, I can take down the 10,000 Demon Valley by myself. Shu Shan said lazily, anyway, it's very difficult. Although Shu Shan's explanation seemed to be a bit problematic. However, this also made Han Fei realize the difficulty of mastering spiritual energy. It was more than difficult. It was as difficult as ascending to the sky. No, it was easier than ascending to the sky. But in any case, Han Fei had at least mastered 50%. His strength hadn't doubled, but it had skyrocketed. He was very happy. Let's talk about the future later. Han Fei immediately asked again, hey, Senior, what is soul power? You just mentioned that when the soul power of the spiritual beast decreases, there may be a fight in the soul sea. What do you mean? After asking for votes. exciting and fast. I'll add more monthly votes in advance. The next 3 chapters or 4 chapters are not fixed. I'm not sure either. I might go back to my hometown in a few days. Let's see how it goes. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.